How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
is the end. There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? Oh, I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to get used by you. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be out you.
Won't anybody help us? What are we running for? When there's nowhere we can run to anymore. We can't afford to be innocent. Stand up and face the enemy. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible. And with the power of conviction, there is no sacrifice. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible.
Who the fuck is Karlyn? She's just some sweet lady. She's like in a knitting. She does like a knitting stream. She's like a knitting YouTuber. She does knitting.
Can we grow up a little? Can we grow up a little bit and
Alt
not
Euro
be
sent $200.
retarded?
Have you
Please.
seen the work of Karlyn Borysenko? Anti-commie cult leader and is obsessed with looking at what actual far-left communists are talking about and organizing today, infiltrating them. They infiltrated the universities, schools, media. She has the receipts to back it up. Primary source evidence. Infestation is dire and she calls Republicans idiots eating slop. Agree.
Thank you for the big super chat. Yeah. Oh, I know Karlyn B. She's solid. She's funny. I
The
like
break
her.
notice was sent to
Literally.
So
Not Ian.
it's not because
Yeah.
I haven't dangled my junk into the combat zone on purpose to get some camera footage, but that's the big part of what's the
Is that
problem.
what you call reporting?
Go
and live
under if
streaming?
you're going to do it.
Yeah,
go
seriously.
undercover. Otherwise, you're wearing a hunk of meat in a lion's den. Nick Shirley, I love you. Take care of yourself, man. Karlyn Borysenko went undercover. Do stuff like that. Like if you want to expose this thing, don't pariah, please.
But Ian, here's and I agree with you to an extent.
Well, what the fuck, StreamYard, with the media settings today? Those blinking media were all StreamYard's fault. I promise. I don't know what's going on, but something is not working today, but that's okay. That's okay. We are here. We are here. Hey, guys, do you want to know something really interesting that is happening? Do you want to know something really interesting that's happening? Over the past 24 hours, actually not even, over the past 12 hours, there's been a couple of instances of people from a certain clique of retards on the internet who are trying to convince people that I'm irrelevant and that, get this, I've never gone undercover with the left and I've never done anything in the real world. These are your conservative journalists, sire. These are your conservative journalists. Isn't it interesting that they're all using the same language? She's irrelevant. That's why I'm a giant ass pussy and won't debate her, Cam Higbee. Or, I've never seen you out there with the left, Lance Video. Who, by the way, Cam and Lance are like besties. Everyone knows that, right? They're friends. So that tells you the group of retards that this is coming from. That tells you the group of retards this is coming from. That very special group of Zionist retards on the internet who lie to their audience and distribute massive amounts of propaganda about what the far left is doing. And they fucking hate me. And they want to convince you that I'm not worth talking to. And they want to convince you that what I have is irrelevant. And they want to convince you that you shouldn't look at any of the content on this channel. And the smart people are going to look at that and ask, why is it exactly that they don't want me to see what's over there? You know, I've always wanted to be this like cult-like figure on the internet. There's a reason my show is called The Cult. There's many reasons my show is called The Cult. It's a reference to many different aspects of what we do on this channel. It's actually the perfect name. But one of the things I like about the name The Cult is that I very literally do fancy this as a cult-like community. Now, I don't mean that my followers have to worship every single thing I say and do, and they can never leave, and they have to follow all these rules. I don't give a fuck if people stay or not, okay? It's not that kind of cult. Although we might pretend it is, because it's fun to play on words sometimes, and it's fun to have satire and fun on the internet. But it's the type of cult where you only get here if you're the hardest of the hardcore. You only get here once you've gone through all of the several layers of bullshit that you have to come to understand to really understand what's going on in the world. From red pilling on the fact that the Democrats are fucking crazy, to red pilling on all the woke bullshit. It doesn't stop with the left. You also have to red pill on the right and really understand how that whole media ecosystem works and what is considered relevant means who says the things I want them to say. That's what that really means. We got Red Menace Nick, W's good sir, with a gifted channel membership. Nick was undercover with Antifa all fucking weekend. Nick was undercover at the New Jersey ICE facility all weekend. What did Cam Higbee do? He outed Nick on his camera and then he made fun of him. Your conservative influencer, sire. The Zionists who will defeat the left. They're outing people that are undercover with Antifa because Cam had some feelings on camera after Nick went up to him and said, Karlyn says hi on a live stream. And it was the funniest fucking shit I've ever seen because we just happened to be watching that stream. And then Nick is dressed like Antifa. It's not hard. If Cam Higbee knew fuck off about what we do in this community, it would not be hard for Cam Higbee to have figured out what was going on. Everyone think about this. We have done 2 successful mass undercover volunteer events. We have had dozens and dozens of people undercover at these far left events, not doing what Cam Higbee and his retard friends do, which is go to these events to instigate, to fight with them, debate them, insult them, get a clip of them owning the libs, bro, as though that's going to fucking solve anything. We don't do that shit. We go there, we listen to them, we talk to them, and they think we are part of them because we speak their language. We read their materials. We connect with the groups that are doing the organizing so we know which groups are active in the areas. I would put my leftist intelligence ecosystem up to anyone. I mean this. I truly mean this. Any right-wing consultants, none of you know as much as I do. Karlyn, you're so arrogant and narcissistic. I'm sorry. I have spent years of my life cultivating a community in which we not only know how to speak the language of the far left fluently, we are able to predict what they're going to do years ahead of time. We are weeks, months, or years ahead of conservative media on every single story about the far left. Literally every single one. I was the first person doing anti-ICE organizing reporting in January of 2025, which is when Antifa started fucking doing it. No one was ahead of me. No one was ahead of us. And this is all documented, by the way. So why would Cam Higbee, intrepid conservative influencer sire, who knows everything about everything going on, why would Cam Higbee not know that? Just ask yourself this. Why would Cam Higbee have at his disposal a group of people who we would have worked with Cam before Cam started being a massive dickwad on the internet? Just to be very clear, I tried to be nice to him just to see if there was any progress that could be made. Can we give you guys information so you aren't so fucking stupid about the left? Because Cam, that's really the thing here. That's really the thing about you, Cam. I don't need anything from you, Cam. I don't want to be funded by Israel. I don't want to be a conservative narrative shill grifter who follows whatever story is in the news cycle. That's not what we do here, bro. That's not what we do. We wanted to give your stupid ass information about the far left and their organizing, and you spit in all of our faces. The reason we want to do this is you retards don't know what you're fucking talking about. You spread lies and misinformation all over the internet. Cam Higbee thinks I don't disagree with anything he thinks about the left. Cam, you have no fucking clue what you're talking about on any given subject, and I would debate you on every single one of those subjects. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me get back to Nick here. Over the weekend, Nick trolled Cam on his live stream, and he got Cam to basically shit himself on camera, and it was really fucking funny. And then Cam outed Nick on video, which if Cam knew anything about my community, he probably would have used the 2 fucking brain cells he has to not put his fucking face on video, you idiot. He outed someone undercover with Antifa, by the way, who was undercover with Antifa all weekend long, who was feeding us live intel in the chat. If you were in the chat on Saturday night, Nick was undercover with Antifa in real time, feeding us information into the chat about what Antifa was doing off of the streams. No one else has that. So we appreciate you, Nick. We appreciate you for that. But why am I bringing up Cam and his loser friend Lance video? Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. I'm not going to spend too much time on Lance video because I don't even really know who this asshole is, if I'm honest about it. But last night I posted this video called How Antifa is Really Funded or something like that. And I explained that Antifa is not funded by NGOs because NGOs are the opposite of mutual aid, and mutual aid is how the far left is funded. And literally, all you need to do is look at their own fucking materials because they tell you this. It is so clear. It is so clear. Because all over conservative Twitter last night, the retard influencer class is spreading another absurd notion. The NGOs are funding it. The NGOs are funding it. The NGOs are funding it. They have no real evidence connecting the NGOs to the anti-ICE organizing. All they have is circumstantial evidence, and they have massive amounts of receipts that contradict this bullshit narrative that it is the NGOs, that they are ignoring that because they need there to be some head of the snake that they can cut off so that they can feel productive about Antifa. But the thing is, when have they ever actually cut off the head of the snake? For as long as the left has been talking about the funding, or excuse me, as long as the right has been talking about the funding, how are they funded? Where's the funding coming from? How many years has this been? Where's the funding from? It's Soros. It's Never Wasting Him. It's the CCP. Why the fuck aren't you doing anything about it? When did you retards plan to cut off the head of the snake if you've known this entire time who the head of the snake is? Why aren't you doing anything about it? Because I'm old enough to remember making a video last year, as soon as Trump had that bullshit Antifa press conference where no one knew what they were talking about except Katie Davis Court. Why did I make a video last year in which I explained clearly Trump is never going to get this little RICO investigation because this is not how Antifa is funded. This is not how Antifa is funded in any way, shape, or form. The group they're really trying to go after is a group Antifa hates. Antifa hates the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Hates them. They make stickers about hating the PSL. They write flyers about hating the PSL. They write articles on the internet about hating the PSL. They write songs about hating the fucking PSL. So Trump thinks he knows where all the leftist funding is coming from because he found one connection in the CCP to one singular group, the Party for Socialism and Liberation. And P.S., Antifa hates that group and doesn't work with them. And Trump thinks, ergo, everyone on the left is being funded by the fucking CCP. What utter bullshit. There was never any head of the snake to cut off. And I said so a year ago, and I was attacked resoundingly all over the fucking internet. Where's the head, guys? Where is the head of the snake? Because you were telling me it was Never Wasting Him a year ago, and I said, Chogi, okay, you go give that a try and see how that goes. And I was told, we're going to RICO. Where the fuck is the head of the snake? It's not there yet. And now we're doing a whole other round of, oh, no. Let's all forget Never Wasting Him, guys. You notice this? Did you notice the transition? Let's all forget that we said for a full year it was Never Wasting Him funding this because Data Republican, that deaf cunt on the internet who loves all the attention and the money in the cloud, I'm sure. Data Republican lied and told everyone it was Never Wasting Him when it never fucking was. Beyond one little group that pretty much everyone hates. And now we have transitioned from that bullshit, because that turned out not to be true, over to it's the NGOs, it's the NGOs, it's the NGOs, it's the NGOs. I can't with these fucking people. I don't even know what started that rant, but we're going to get to Lance Shithead here in a second. Daniel, thank you so much for the super chat, my darling. I really appreciate that. So I posted a video about that yesterday, basically saying, this is actually mutual aid, you idiots. And Lance Retard responded to me, and he said, I've never seen you out in the streets doing the work. You stay home. Well, I know that Lance Video had a good day and a half as an intrepid Pentagon reporter. But hey, Lance, if I've never been out there with Antifa, then how was I on an Antifa hit list wall at the entrance of an event I literally went undercover at? You're conservative journalist, sire. How is it possible, if I have never been out there in the real world, that I literally have a photo of myself in front of another photo of myself on an Antifa hit list wall? Riddle me this, Lance Video. Riddle me this. Riddle me this. Tolkien fan, thank you so much for the gifted channel membership. Appreciate that. Derpy Dan, thank you so much for that, good sir. So then he responded. Everyone thinks you're an insufferable woman. Everyone talks. Now, for this, listen, I know many of us on this channel are older, but we need to transport ourselves back into the minds of a 20-year-old for a moment. When you are young and naive and, quite frankly, stupid, you can be made to believe through obsession on the internet that the people who are your friends are the only people in the world and the only people that matter and the only people that are quote unquote relevant. And it's a funny thing, right? I've seen this happen to so many retards on the internet, and quite frankly, most of them are Zionists. So I mean, maybe there's a coincidence there. I've seen this happen with so many people on the internet where they really start to believe that the only people in the world are the people that they themselves are friends with. And I'm like, well, Lance, I have thousands of financial supporters online who love what I do and think that my work is better than your work and think that my work is better than Cam's work. And Lance, do you know that so many of my supporters, guys, let me know if this is true for you. So many of my supporters literally don't support anyone else on the internet. I hear this all the time. 1 in the chat if I am the only person you financially support on the internet. 2 in the chat if you support other people too. 3 in the chat if you don't financially support me yet, but you're totally going to someday. And it's okay if it's 2 or 3, by the way. I'm honestly just curious. 1 in the chat if I am the only content creator that you support financially. Look at all the ones. I literally hear this all the time. And I won't be jealous if you guys want to support other people. Support whoever you want. I don't give a fuck. But like, Lance, how is it possible that I have so many people who literally I'm the only person on the internet they give money to? If no one likes me, Lance, I just don't know about that. I just don't know about that. So Lance continued to insult me and say I was insufferable and I was irrelevant and no one likes me and you can't sit with us. And it was very cute. And, you know, you have to pat him on the head and you know, kick his ass as you send him away or whatever to go cry into whatever corner he's crying to and fantasizing about something to do with Cam that probably is not professionally appropriate. But even better than that, and I have to say, I know who instigated this. I need to disavow. I didn't tell anyone to do this. This was entirely the mastermind of people who were fucking around on my movie night. And then they decided collectively to go troll Cam in his live chat after our movie night last night. And I was just fucking around doing tarot cards and stuff. So I was not even paying attention. And then all of a sudden I get like 13 messages from people saying, Karlyn, Cam Higbee refused to debate you and he called you a bitch and irrelevant on the internet. And I was like, oh, did he really? Oh, did he? Oh, did he really? Oh yeah? Oh yeah, Cam? Let's listen and see what happened. Let's listen to this.
Cam Higbee is afraid to debate Karlyn on the left. That's not a topic, okay? The left is not a topic. Like, take this, for example. When I debated USS Liberty survivors, I debated, was the Liberty attack intentional or unintentional?
Okay, we're going to pause right there, and I'm just going to answer each of Cam's issues in real time. Because Cam, You are a professional debater. Cam, you're a professional debater. So I'm going to debate each topic with you on the video so you can see how this would work, Cam. So you can get a preview for the epic ass kicking you would ever get if you somehow managed to muster some balls and put on your fucking big boy pants and sit across the debate table with me. Cam, you say that the left is not a specific topic. Okay. How is it? Here are some specific questions, Cam, that I know we disagree on. How is Antifa funded? Which groups are running in the anti-ICE protests? What's wrong with the BS narrative? Zionists like you push. What does whiteness mean? What's the left's goal with gender? What is queer Marxism? I even gave him more topics if you didn't like those. I said Antifa's organizing principles, the role of the unions, the role or lack thereof of Soros, NGOs, CCP, or any other bullshit you retards push. How about no one on your side? How about why no one on your side ever debates intellectually? Why do you always just debate dumb college students? Yada, yada, yada. We got Tolkien fan in with the super chat. Thanks so much, bro. You're the only channel on YouTube I've joined and the only person I consistently support and watch on the internet. Bless you and much love. Really appreciate that, Tolkien fan. Thanks so much for the super chat and the ongoing support. But that wasn't enough. I gave him more. I said, Cam, we can talk about what is anti-civilization activism and how it relates to the far left today. How does the far left spread its ideas and recruit? What is gender nihilism and how does it influence the far left? Who are Bashback and the Mary Nardi gang and why are they relevant today? Pick a topic. I even gave him more. What's the difference between the Democrats, DSA, and Antifa? Which groups on the left are organizing together? Which hate each other? What are they planning next? What are they organizing that will occur in 2028? How are the reformists different than the revolutionaries? How are the assimilationists different than the anti-assimilationists? Cam, I've now given you like 57 fucking different topics related to the far left. Cam, you can pick any question you want to debate or talk about. You can make up a series of questions on your fucking own. I do not care. Literally any topic related to far left activism in America. Any topic even remotely connected to far left activism in America, I will debate you on. So pick one, Cam. Pick one. You want people to get more specific? There you go, asshole.
Cam Higby is afraid to debate Karlyn on the left. That's not a topic, okay? The left is not a topic. Like, take this, for example. When I debated USS Liberty survivors, I debated, was the Liberty attack intentional or unintentional? That's a topic. The left is not a topic. There's no question involved. There's no side to take.
Well, I just gave you about 37 different options, Cam. So if you don't want to take one of those, then explain why and explain how you would like us to rephrase this, and we will rephrase all the questions for you. And I will go as many fucking rounds as it takes, Cam. As many fucking rounds as it takes to satisfy your sensibilities as a professional debater on the internet.
I'm against the left. She is also against the left.
You don't even know what the left is,
What are we going
Cam.
to debate on?
You
Now,
don't even. How fucking much do you guys want to bet? Cam Higby does not even know how the left defines capitalism. One in the chat, if you think that Cam Higby knows how the left defines capitalism. 2 in the chat, if you think Cam Higby has no fuck off clue about the most basic 101 level question that exists about the far left. 1, if you think the Cam understands. 2, if you think he has no fucking clue. And if Cam doesn't know what the left's definition of capitalism is, which is why we harp on it all the time on this channel, he does not understand the left. He does not understand how they're organized. He does not understand what their motivations are. He does not understand what their written material mean. You do not understand the left if you do not understand this very, very basic point, which is why I bring it up every single day in my life. Off topic. Thanks, Missykins. If communists are mostly atheists, I wouldn't say that. I would not say that that's true. Why are they joining the Islamists? They don't care about Islam. I feel like I've already explained this to you once, but you pay me money, so I'll do it again. They don't care about Islam. They don't really even care about Christianity. They don't care about Judaism either. They don't care about any of that stuff. That is all a right-wing conservative narrative pushed by people like Cam Higbee and his friends who don't fucking understand what is going on. So no, I wouldn't say that that assumption is true. That is, again, conservative right-wing bullshit. But I appreciate the super chat. Thank you. Yeah, Cam is coping. Cam is coping because he doesn't know enough about the left to know it is a topic. Well, you know what? I mean, listen, if Cam wants to narrow it down to the most narrow possible thing, I'll fucking do it. I don't care. I will go as broad as the far left. I will go all the way down to some minute little topic like discuss the relevance of the ACT UP movement into the Mary Nardini gang and the Bashback movement and how that influences far left activism today. I will go down to some minute little scholarly topic that I will still know better than he does, no matter what fucking topic he picks, because I've watched thousands and thousands of hours of this and have sat in the room with them behind closed doors, places that Cam Higbee has never gone. And by the way, I'm sorry, am I on glue? Or did Turning Point USA literally come and film me undercover like last year and then put it out until Andy No told them, no, you're not allowed to talk about her because I don't like her because she is contradicting my narrative. Just saying, it's not as though these people don't know who I am. Cam likes to act like he doesn't know who I am. They know exactly who I am, and they always fucking have.
Debate on the left's tactics or something like that. That's a
Sure.
debate topic.
Let's
but
do
we need
that.
to establish
Tactics.
an actual
Let's go.
debate
Right
topic
now.
that we disagree on.
All of it.
But also, I don't want to give her dumbass any airtime.
Oh, and that's really the issue, isn't it, Cam? That's really the issue, isn't it, Cam? Now, guys, remember, Cam Higbee debates college students. And I'm sure, Cam, that I would be no match for your college students, being that I'm a 45-year-old experienced PhD in psychology, most accomplished expert on the far left in the country currently, based on the amount that I have published, including the books that I have written and the people that I have taught, which is into the millions, you stupid motherfucker. I am sure that I am no match for your sophomore girl college student who has pink hair. I'm sure, Cam, that I just don't stand a chance against your intrepid debate partners, the retards at the public colleges. Sounds like a little bit of a cop-out, right? I don't want to give her dumb ass any attention. I'm pretty sure, Cam, that you know that you debate college students. And if you stepped in the ring with me, we're talking about a completely different game. I am not young. I am not stupid. I'm a fucking psychologist, you idiot. I'm a professional debater. I'm a professional psychologist. Anyway, obviously he's scared. I mean, I'm trying to spell this out for people, but like, you're telling me that I'm the dumbass when you're the one debating college students. You're telling me that I'm less of an opponent than those college students. Okay, Cam. Yeah, I think everyone knows that's true, Cam. Yeah, everyone totally believes that. That's definitely not a lie, you Zionist faggot.
She's irrelevant, and I don't want to make her relevant.
I'm irrelevant, guys. I'm irrelevant. Just like those college students, right, Cam? Who are those college students? Do you even remember the names of any of those college students you debated? Fascinating. Fascinating. So, what people need to know, and what I would like everyone's help with.
Let me check in on the people who I knew instead.
I think that was it. That was the end of the clip. What I need from you guys is this. I need every single person on Twitter to go, and I need you to help me get this tweet a little more viral than it is right now. And especially, I need you to tag Cam and call him a name or something derogatory to indicate that he is a massive pussy coward and everyone fucking knows it, because I would kick his ass so badly in any debate about the far left. It's not even fucking funny. Okay, Cam, we all know this. This is why not one single person from that whole side of the internet will ever intellectually debate me. Andy No will not debate me because I would kick his ass. It would not even be fucking close. James Lindsay would never debate me. I would never even debate James now. James is irrelevant to me now, but like back in the day, he wouldn't debate me because he knew I had all the evidence and all he had was mounds of bullshit. In fact, I would debate all three of those people, 3 against 1 at the same time, and still kick all of their asses collectively on this topic. As long as it is exclusive to the far left in America today, their activism today. That is what I care about. Not the fucking philosophy, not Yuri Bezmenov. I care about far left activism today. And quite frankly, Cam, if you can't debate the topic of far left activism today, because I can name you about 137 things off the top of my head that you and I disagree on. If you can't do that, then you shouldn't be reporting on the left. If you cannot stand by your knowledge and your ideas, and by the way, Cam, I wouldn't even have to do any prep for this debate. I would come in completely cold, completely unprepared, no notes, nothing. And I would still kick your ass on any given fucking topic because of how much of this shit I've consumed. And the fact that you don't know that, or you're trying to pretend you don't know that. 1 in the chat if you think Cam Higby knows exactly who I am and he is terrified to debate me. 2 in the chat if you really think that Cam Higby has no idea because I'm just so irrelevant, darling. 1 in the chat if you think he knows exactly who I am and that I would kick his ass if he ever tried to debate me. 2 in the chat if, I'm just too irrelevant for Cam and... Yeah, isn't it funny? The reason that they used to give is you're fat. And now guess what? I'm 138 pounds at 5'6". I'm not fat anymore, you fuckers. Can't use it as an excuse. Too bad, so sad, losers. So, Cam, I think that we're gonna keep on your ass about this a little while. Cam, do you know that we drove James Lindsay insane? It wasn't the Groypers. It was us. We got to him first. I think that we need to make trolling Cam a priority for the summer. And again, guys, I am totally willing to coordinate. If people want to go, these protests are going to start popping up like other places. I promise you. Antifa is already trying to export these strategies to other states. They're trying to organize other anti-ICE protests, not only the hunger strike, but also the protesting outside. They just distributed material about that last night. So, yeah, I'm so irrelevant that I've appeared on Fox News twice and made history by getting a tenured college professor fired for being a communist since the McCarthy era. Yeah, Cam, I'm so fucking relevant. I was the one that did something for the first time since McCarthy. Cam has no sense of history, obviously. No sense of history. So, Cam, I think that you haven't heard the last of this, because as long as we're going to be doing protest coverage anyway, pretty fucking funny, and you're a massive pussy and a coward, and I know you'll never debate me, and that is why we will continue to troll you and make fun of you and mock you and ridicule you, and maybe even go around to live streams that you're on to ask you really inconvenient questions, not to spam the chat, Cam, because we don't do that, but we do go into live streams that you're on and we will ask you really inconvenient questions that you're not going to like. I think we're going to do that until you man up and debate me, bitch. Okay? Let's going to be fun. You guys ready? Has everyone replied to the tweet with Cam and tagged him and, said whatever you want to say? I'm going to be looking through the replies. If you guys aren't replying, I'm going to give you shit about it. All right. Let's get into our main topic for today, which is not the retarded Zionist ham pigby of the internet, which is not that. Let me take a drink. I want to just give a quick W to all of our channel members. I think I answered everyone, but W's to Nick sending in a channel membership. We got a W to Tolkien fan for sending in a membership. We got, I think, one more from Derpy Dan. We got 3 channel memberships so far. Guys, I would love to get today's stream 100 memberships on the stream. We are going to be doing a long class day, and I think it's going to be real good because we are going to be learning about mutual aid. Yes. Yes, you should do that. Yep. Yes. If this is the question, do you make a Twitter just to troll? The answer is yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's all. Yeah. I mean, there are many people in the community that only use it to troll. Yeah. So, because apparently no one on the conservative right understands how Antifa is funded and that it is funded by mutual aid, and no, mutual aid does not mean NGOs. In fact, it explicitly means no NGOs. I don't think anyone's gotten out of jail yet. I don't think BG has gotten out of jail, but I'm not keeping a track of that actively. Reagan has volunteered this video, and Reagan has a thing for black liberationists, and I don't really know why. Probably because she's from Georgia or something. But Reagan is going to make us watch a black liberationist mutual aid video. I fucking knew it, Reagan. I fucking knew it. So Reagan suggested that this is one of the best videos about mutual aid that she's ever seen. It's about an hour and a half. Now, I want to remind people, okay? Oh, the banner's not up. There we go. I want to remind people of something important that just slipped my mind. What the fuck did I want to remind you of? What the fuck? This is the keto amnesia. I'm not even joking. Someone explained to me, I think it was Hans, someone explained to me the other week about keto amnesia. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm getting keto amnesia. Because I've had so many moments lately where it's just like I have a thought and then it's gone. And that didn't used to happen to me before. Oh shit. I've gone so fucking keto in this diet that I've given myself amnesia. No, I think the amnesia is real. I think it's real. Oh shit. I'm gonna have to start eating carbs again. Anyway. Okay. How the left is funded, how Antifa is really funded is a concept called mutual aid. What mutual aid, I remember the point I was going to make. What mutual aid means is aid from the community, donations from the community, cash from the community, from the people who are doing the work and in solidarity with other people in the community. Okay? It wasn't about gifted channel memberships. And so what that means is, I know the right is going to come back and say, well, can't NGOs donate to mutual aid? The answer is no. Because the left is actually very explicit in this in their materials that it is against mutual aid is the opposite of institutional aid. Mutual aid is counter to nonprofits. Mutual aid is counter to NGOs. They believe when nonprofits and NGOs give them money, it comes with strings attached, and they don't like that. And they are trying to do something that is outside of the system as a purposeful exercise. It is a political act. It is not just about raising money, although it is that. But it's every aspect of community support. When they say, we keep us safe, this is what they are talking about. So, no, they are not funded by the NGOs. And what is going on right now in the conservative retard sphere? Hey, thank you so much for the channel membership, Daniel. I really appreciate that. Everyone W's for Daniel in the chat. What is actually going on in the conservative, retard ecosphere is that they're, basically, someone got into one of the signal groups in New Jersey, and he got their mutual aid list. Okay, massive, massive W. Massive W. The conservatives actually did something right for once. They exposed a mutual aid list that literally said mutual aid on it, and they were like, holy shit, it looks like this group is funded by mutual aid. And I went, I've been trying to tell you retards this for over a fucking year. I've literally been trying to explain this for over a year. Did you finally get there? Did you finally cross the finish line? I was real excited for a moment. And then they followed it up with one of the people organizing the tent is on the board of an NGO, and therefore they assumed all the funding for the fucking tent came from the NGOs. Guys, it is extremely common for activists on the left, the ones that are really active, that are going and doing all this shit, it is extremely common for them to have affiliations with probably dozens of different groups and organizations. Just because one person organizing a tent is affiliated with another organization in some capacity is not evidence of that organization funding the fucking tent. The tent's funding, which you saw in the text messages, came from mutual aid. And mutual aid, in the documents written about it and the trainings given about it, is explicitly against things like NGOs for many reasons. And I posted a short video about it just yesterday. You can find it on my Twitter, you can find it on my YouTube, like wherever. Okay. So it occurs to me that perhaps a deep dive into this topic is necessary so that perhaps, listen, I'm not hoping for the sun, the moon, and the stars here. I know I'm quote unquote irrelevant on the conservative right because I like to tell the truth and they don't like that because it hurts their fucking feelings. But maybe someday, dare to dream, we will get just one or two people in the chat, and they're not going to chat in and participate. They're just going to silently listen. And maybe finally one of those people will be connected to someone who can wake the fuck up and understand that targeting the funding is a fool's fucking errand, because you are never going to cut off mutual aid. It is never going to happen. It is grassroots community support. That is what it is. What the government needs to be doing, if anyone is actually fucking listening, is going after the organizers. They need to go after the organizers. They need to arrest the organizers and put them in jail. Stop going after the fucking funding. The funding you are going after is not even the thing that is funding the fucking anti-ICE activism. It is two different things. And every single person that I find credible on the ground has come out on this and said, I'm right. Including, oh, by the way, let me find this. Including, by the way, hang on. Where is it? Katie Davis Court, who has been on the ground in Portland for like a fucking year. Katie Davis Court, who was at the White House roundtable on this, and who, by the way, I didn't forget about this. Katie Davis Court said the words mutual aid at that White House roundtable, and that was how I knew she knew what she was fucking talking about. And we said it at the time. You can go back and watch it. We live streamed it. I got real high. I said at the time, Katie Davis Court knows what she's talking about. She said mutual aid. Katie Davis Court earlier today. Love or hate Karlyn, her reporting is accurate, especially on mutual aid. Now, listen, Katie, you don't have to say it's okay for people to hate me, Katie, okay? I don't actually care. Whatever. But the important part here is that I'm right. Everyone fucking knows it. Everyone fucking acknowledges it. And yet, for some reason, we are still having this stupid perpetuation of the NGOs, the CCP, the NGOs, the CCP, Soros, literally. So I thought that it was time for a little bit of a refresher. I thought we could do a session about mutual aid. Now, guys, who is excited to watch the mutual aid presentation? As a reminder, we are going to be watching a presentation that is far left training material. So this is not about the left is making a presentation to try to trick the right into believing something that isn't true and blah, blah, blah. No, this is what leftists use to teach each other. Okay? 1 in the chat if you're excited. 2 in the chat if you think this is dumb and you're going to go somewhere else. Oh, thank you so much, I am, for being a member of the channel for 17 months. Karlyn is right. Yeah, totes, man. Totes. Appreciate it. Guys, can I get you to do me a favor? Because we do have a channel membership goal today, because anytime I spend hours of my time breaking down these presentations for you, breaking down the terminology, teaching a class here because you're now walking into my classroom. I am the teacher, you are the student. Anytime I do this stuff, I ask that we hit a 100 channel membership goal so I can continue to afford to stream this much and do this much stuff with you guys. It takes hours and hours and hours to do this. Not only the streaming, but also the research for this stuff and all of the other stuff that goes into it. So if you want to support the work, the very best way you can is by donating some channel memberships. That helps the community. It also helps me. And if 20 people donated 5 channel memberships, we would already be at the goal. And that would be rad. So can we get to 25 before I start the presentation if you guys are ready to go? If you guys know I'm going to give you just an amazing fucking class today, and you're going to learn about how Antifa is funded, can we get to 25 channel memberships before I even get the presentation started? Just to keep us on track. I'm just keeping us honest, okay? Just keeping us honest. Thank you, Doug. Doug in with the 1 gifted channel membership. Thank you, bro. 20 more. Unless I missed one. Did I miss one? I don't think so. Because the thing is, if no one's excited to watch this, then I don't have to do it. So that's fine too. That's fine too. Who created the concept of mutual aid? I think we're going to find out in the presentation. Yeah, you mathed that bad, Bob. That was not good. We got one from Bella Lagos. Thank you so much. W's to you. That's sick. Guys, we can sit here for as long as it takes. I'm not going to start this presentation until we hit 25. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. And if people don't want to learn it, that's cool, man. That's cool. I can go do something else. I got a project I was working on. Maybe Cam's right. Maybe my work is irrelevant. Maybe people just don't value what I do. Maybe that is actually true. I tend to think it when it's this difficult to get 25 channel memberships with, this many people in the chat. But, we got 5 from SS Kennedy on Rumble. W's to you, SS Kennedy. Thank you so much. Appreciate the support on Rumble. Rumble kicking YouTube's ass. That's all right. It's all right. Maybe Cam is right. Maybe it's time to hang it up. Maybe it's time to hang it up. Okay, well, I guess you guys don't want to watch this. I think that's a real shame because I think it's a really great presentation, and I'm, sorry that we don't get to watch it for class today. I'm being serious, by the way. I will just end the stream. Because if it's this much trouble to get to 25, we're not going to get anywhere close to the goal. And this is, guys, this is an hour and a half presentation. This is going to take a long-ass time. We got a W for Tolkien fan, 5 gifted channel memberships. Thank you, good sir. Helping us get there. We got Chica Lago in. Thank you, good sir. Appreciate it. W's to you. StreamYard is being crazy today. We got Brown Barbaloo with 5 W's to you, madam. Thank you so much. Gotta get 3 more. And then we will start the class. And we're in with Kazmar. Thank you, Kazmar. You rock. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Guys, thanks so much. I know it's annoying, but this is how I stay independently funded. I cannot do this if people do not fund it. And that's just the way it goes. So I will always show up for you guys when you show up for me. And we do a lot of cool stuff on this channel. And the reason that we can do that cool stuff and the reason I can give everyone that doesn't want to listen a middle finger is because you guys fund my work. Chica Lago, thank you so much for the gifted channel membership. Really appreciate it. So I know it's annoying. I know people don't like being asked. I know it annoys everyone when I have to do it. It annoys me too, by the way. But this only continues as long as the support does. So I will now spend the next several hours of my life teaching you a class, and we will make sure we're making our way towards that goal. If I teach you something new that you didn't know before this, if I make you look at things differently, if I break down a topic in a way you haven't heard before, if I make you laugh, if I make you cry, please consider donating some channel membership so I can keep streams like this free for everyone, because that's the way it should be. All right, let's get this party started. Yo, Hans, getting in with right before the buzzer, bro. 10 gifted channel memberships from Hans. Thank you, good sir. We love you. We appreciate you. What a fucking legend. Thank you. Thank you. See, look at that. Look how quickly the number can go up. Isn't that awesome? Best community on the internet. Love you guys.
In the early 1980s, the government watched as a virus tore through communities, especially LGBTQIA ones, and did nothing. By 1987, thousands upon thousands were gone, and the president wouldn't even acknowledge the crisis. Hospitals turned patients away, and families turned their backs. The state failed us. What happens when the state ignores its people? What happens when the systems that are supposed to protect you abandon you instead? What do you do when people are dying and no one is stepping in to help?
Okay, Reagan,
but
thanks.
we did ACT UP, and other organizations took the streets demanding.
Pop quiz. What was ACT UP? Pop, you were busy on Twitter trashing Ham? Okay, well, that's excused then. Pop quiz for the chat. What was the ACT UP movement? They just mentioned the ACT UP movement. What was ACT UP? Let's make sure that everyone knows this. And if you don't know the answer, the community is going to teach you guys, okay? What is the ACT UP movement that they just mentioned? It was about AIDS. Yup. What else was it? Dr. Raleigh, thank you so much for the gifted channel membership, sir. Really appreciate it. Guys, what was the ACT UP movement? Do we need to do another curriculum on the ACT UP movement? Is that what needs to happen? It was an AIDS advocacy group. What else? Aha, now we're moving in the right direction. It was a queer liberationist group. It was not about gay rights. It was not about gay rights at all. It was about queer liberation. Remember, guys, queer, and this is something. Oh, hey, Kristen's in with an answer. Let's see what Kristen has to say. ACT UP was a movement fighting against the government lack of response. Well, yes, but. Okay. In the Queer Marxism started in this country in 1950 with the Mattachine Society. The Mattachine Society were basically a bunch of gay commies that got kicked out of the Communist Party in the 50s because you couldn't be gay in the Communist Party in the 50s because they thought it was too easy to blackmail people. So these 5 gay commies got kicked out of the Communist Party. They formed something called the Mattachine Society, in which they were playing with the notion that that basically being gay made you an oppressed class. And that is the nugget of queer Marxism. When I say queer Marxism, I do not mean being gay. I do not mean being trans. They don't view it as anything about sexuality or gender, really, because they want to abolish gender. They view it as a political identity. This is the nugget that carried through into the fucking donut shop riot in Los Angeles that I can never remember the name of, the Compton's cafeteria riot, the Stonewall riot in 1969. These were the first queer liberation riots that were happening. After these happened in the 60s, moving into the 70s and into the 80s, you started getting all of this anti-capitalist bullshit that was brewing in the Coopers. Thank you. I can never fucking remember the name of the donut place. You got all this anti-commie activism that's brewing on both the coasts, both in New York and San Francisco. And so it is brewing in these scenes where there are a lot of gay people. However, what was really happening is there was starting to be a split between the gay people who just wanted to assimilate to society and just wanted to be able to get married and have a job and all that stuff. They wanted to be like normal people. And the queer liberationists. And this is the split that people have to understand queer Marxism and the far left. And I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, but this is important for people to know. You have the normie gay rights activists over here who are basically Democrats and liberals and progressives that are like, treat gay people fairly, let them get married, let them have jobs, da-da-da-da-da. Like, it's all stuff that, like, they want to be able to, like, function in normal society. And whether or not you like that they're gay is irrelevant. They just wanted to be able to assimilate to normal society. Those are the normie gay rights activists. The anti-assimilationists, the queers who did not want to assimilate to normal society, they had an anti-assimilationist, anti-capitalist philosophy that said, fuck marriage, we don't want to get married, we don't want to participate in the system, we don't want to have normative beauty standards, we don't want to have any of these things. There were some things during the 70s that these groups kind of worked side by side in, especially in places like San Francisco, which was obviously like gay mecca. So you had basically the assimilationists and the anti-assimilationists on some things, and this was true in New York as well, working side by side with each other, but that did not mean they agreed with each other. It did not mean they agreed with each other at all. They agreed with each other on some things, but not on many things. Moving into the 80s, you still have normie gay rights activism that's going on, but you start to see, especially during the AIDS epidemic, when Reagan wouldn't say the word AIDS, ACT UP started as a, I believe, queer liberationist movement that was fundamentally anti-capitalist in its approach, that became the first radical queer militant movement of any size to make national media attention over and over and over again. ACT UP is where queer activism today came from. And there were also influences in the punk community and stuff that they were doing around gender and stuff like that as well. But what I really want people to understand is ACT UP is not about gay rights. There may have been some normie gay rights activists around, because you got to realize the two groups were still kind of working side by side. The schism was starting between the assimilationists and the anti-assimilationists, but the schism didn't really like take hold until the 90s. Okay. So basically the reason that you might think that ACT UP is the gay rights movement is because they were working side by side with them. So you would see kind of like people involved that were more normie gay rights activists, and they just wanted people to get medicine and be, taken care of and stuff like that. But the schism was already happening, and it just like ruptured in the 90s. It was just after this. So it is important for people to understand that. I think in order to understand a lot of why the left does what it does.
Actions. Communities formed mutual aid networks to care for the sick, provide food, and push for treatment. We didn't wait for permission. We stepped in when no one else could.
So during the ACT UP movement in the 80s, they started large-scale mutual aid networks where they were basically giving money to each other, bringing food, taking care of each other. We keep us safe. And that was during the AIDS epidemic, when they didn't feel like anyone else was taking care of them. And to be honest, they were probably right. That probably really sucked to live through from that perspective, to be honest. So they probably had some legitimate grievances. Old Sub in there with the 20, bro. Getting us over the halfway point. Thank you so much, Old Sub. Really appreciate it. And I know what Old Sub's doing. You want to know why? Because Old Sub likes round numbers, and he sent me one more. Thank you so much, Old Sub, for the 20 channel memberships. The king, the legend. We love you. We appreciate you. Let's get that up to 60, I think.
Now, as the Trump administration guts resources and stokes chaos, we face a similar question. When the state fails, what will you do? Mutual aid saved lives then, and it can save us now. Because when the state abandons us, we react by taking care of each other.
A mystery disease
Thanks,
known as the
Mike.
gay plague
Appreciate
has become
it.
an epidemic unprecedented in the history of American medicine. That today from the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta, topping the list of
See? Because when the state fails, we take care of each other. We keep us safe. The community keeps themselves safe. The comrades keep themselves safe. The people they are in solidarity with make them. Guys, it is so damaging that the right believes these are paid protesters, because the right really does not understand how much people on the far left internalize this ideology as a part of their identity. If someone is a paid protester, then they must not really care about any of the things that they're doing. They're just doing it for $50 on a slice of pizza. That's literally what conservatives think. The answer couldn't be farther from the truth. It is the direct opposite of that. Leftists internalize their activism as part of their identity. They operate as a collectivist group. This is not about individualism. It is about collectivism. They see themselves as part of the Borg. We keep us safe. When they say that, all of those chants that you hear at the protests that people get really annoyed by because why are they chanting? This is stupid. What is this doing? The chants tell you what their beliefs are. They are in a cult doing a ritual. That is what is going on at these protests. The chants tell you what their beliefs are. We keep us safe. I just hit my desk with my fist and something fell down in a pile. People really need to understand this. These are not paid protesters. They're not mentally ill. These are people who are brainwashed into a cult-like environment in an echo chamber where they only talk to other people who agree with them. They only do activism with other people who agree with them. They only read books by people who agree with them. They have a whole publishing educational ecosystem in which they are constantly doing classes and book clubs and all this stuff. They are in an echo chamber that has created a cult-like environment that they have internalized as part of their identity. The comrades. That's what that means.
Mutual aid is not charity. It's a solidarity-based support where everyone gets what they can and takes what they need. And I think it's important to also define mutual aid as both a form of direct action and also an ideological approach. It's kind of important to talk about when mutual aid is direct action and when it is not. I consider it direct action when it is not institutionalized and it addresses a social/political gap or exploitation. We can look at history. We can see that there have been many countless forms of direct action that have existed outside of institutions, but what typically happens when movements become more accepted or co-opted by the mainstream or the political center or liberals or progressives is that they take these more radical forms of mutual aid and they turn it into something that can be institutionalized. People gathering together and squatting empty units in their neighborhood and then offering those units to houseless people, and then there being a shared process of free housing.
So what they're talking about doing, by the way, I want to make sure people understand this. When he said people going and squatting in houses in their neighborhood, they're basically going in and taking over houses. They're taking over people's private property and using squatting laws to confiscate the house so that it can be made free housing for them and all their homeless friends. That's what they're talking about. The left's definition of capitalism is private property ownership. The squatting laws that you see all over the country, that is a way of attacking private property. HT is... You're shitting me. You are shitting me. You are shitting... HT went on with Alex Jones? Can we watch that? Not now. We're not watching it now, but can someone please send me a link to HT on Alex? If you don't know who HT is, don't worry about it. So anyway, the squatting laws all over the country about the confiscation of private property. I literally have Antifa zines where they teach you how to take over a house, basically. and to squat in it to basically like either barricade yourself in or something like that. Holy shit. Yeah, can someone send me that HT on Alex Jones link? I would love to watch that.
Is different than an institution offering temporary housing, requiring applications, requiring a certain kind of person to apply in order to receive aid and help. When we turn away from institutionalization, we turn away from parameters and organizations that usually dictate who the perfect victim is, who the perfect
Oh, and here it is. Guys, we are 2 minutes into the mutual aid presentation. We are less than 3 minutes into the mutual aid presentation. I promise I'm not going to stop this much all the way through. He just said we avoid organizations that want to dictate who the victim is. That means the NGOs. That means the nonprofits. They avoid any organization that is going to give them money, especially from outside the community, with strings attached to you have to do this or say this or we're supporting X, Y, B, and Z, or you can't do this or blah, 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 blah. Or even to the extent that, and Dean Spade says this in They Them's book, which is titled, aptly, Mutual Aid. They don't want to work with organizations that are going to discourage the use of violence. So it's pretty hard to find an NGO that is going to be actively donating to any organization that is like overtly in public engaging in violence. And that's part of their conditions for taking mutual aid, is that you have to allow them to do violence. Okay? That's in the fucking book. So they're saying at the top of the presentation, this does not mean funding from these types of organizations.
and then offering those units to houseless people, and then there being a shared process of free housing is different than an institution offering temporary housing, requiring applications, requiring a certain kind of person to apply in order to receive aid and help. When we turn away from institutionalization, we turn away from parameters and organizations that usually dictate who the perfect victim is, who the perfect subject of being helped is. And what I think mutual aid does is that it removes that question altogether, and it says, instead of thinking about who the perfect victim is, we should be thinking about what a political process is that addresses these social and political and economic wrongs, both for the subject of this exploitation and for myself as a body trying to help, but can also recognize that in some ways I'm subjected to this exploitation, or this exploitation controls parts of my life as well. When I was working in Seattle, I worked for an organization. If you got hired there, you sorted mail and you also managed bank accounts for people without housing. And although I very much view this as something that was amazing, something that was based in like a harm reductionist kind of approach, I don't necessarily see it as mutual aid because it was tied to a nonprofit, that was tied to an institution.
I don't see it as mutual aid because it was tied to a nonprofit or institution. That's going to include NGOs, guys. Literally at the beginning of the presentation.
That was based in like a harm reductionist kind of approach. I don't necessarily see it as mutual aid because it was tied to a nonprofit, that was tied to an institution. There were all these policies and processes and rules that weren't malleable, but instead were beholden to the decision makers of that organization. And although I felt like I did amazing work and it was really fruitful and interesting, I think a more mutual aid model would instead not really look at what tools can we give people to start living their lives and participating in capitalism, meaning a bank account, driver's license, all these things that can help people have a quality way of life. But these are signifiers of being identifiable enough to find work and be involved in labor and then be exploited in labor. I think another way that we can look at this is think of mutual aid as a potluck where everyone brings something to share, compared to charity, which is like a banquet where only a few people decide who gets served. Mutual aid is also about a more democratized form of collective care and aid work that is being done, as opposed to one that is top-down and hierarchical. Mutual aid is not a new concept. It's deeply rooted in indigenous cultures and societies worldwide. Many indigenous cultures have alternative forms of economy or sharing space or resources.
True.
In many indigenous tribes in what we now know as the United States of America,
Okay.
there have been the concept of—
I'm going to stop the presentation here. I'm going to ask people. We are 5 minutes into this presentation. One in the chat if you still think the mutual aid tent at the New Jersey anti-ICE protest is funded by mutual aid. 2 in the chat if you think the mutual aid tent at the New Jersey anti-ICE protest is funded by NGOs. Based on what you've heard so far. 1, if you believe the mutual aid tent in New Jersey is funded by mutual aid. 2, if you think it's funded by NGOs. I'm going to do a brief IQ test. We're going to see who can hang. Yeah, mutual Soros. Okay, asshole. Okay. Kind of looks like most people think the mutual aid tent is mutual aid and not funded by NGOs.
Gift economies.
Just for reference, I'm going to read you what Wikipedia says a gift economy is. It is a system of exchange where valuables are not sold, but rather given without an explicit agreement for immediate or future rewards. So it's basically just giving people things because they need them, giving people things because you care about them, giving people things because you want them to have it, giving people things because you get happiness from doing so. It's all of those things together and more. Gift economies are dangerous to capitalism. The gift economy combats.
Gift economies are dangerous to capitalism. What they're saying, guys, is a mutual aid network is explicitly built outside of capitalism. A mutual aid network is outside of capitalism. It is outside of capitalism as a political point. It is outside of capitalism as an organizing strategy. It is not an accident. It is very deliberate. They are making intentional decisions about how they are raising money to separate themselves from the capitalist ecosystem. What that means is when you understand that they believe NGOs are for profits, they support capitalism. When you understand that they believe that nonprofits support capitalism, there is no fuck off universe in which they are going to be getting all their funding from NGOs because it is directly counter to every single thing they believe and in every single thing that they are doing, and it says this in their fucking literature.
It by divesting and instead thinking of property, of the things that we own differently. There are already a lot of people that are participating in these kind of economies today, and things like buy nothing groups, clothing swaps, mutual aid networks, all that kind of stuff is already being practiced, and that is part of a gift economy.
And these systems of gifted economies or cooperative economies are dependent upon the fact that community or collective survival is based on mutual collectivism, cooperation, and care. Under Trump administration, where they're enacting universal school choice, or they have House bills that force mandatory reporters to out students for their gender or sexuality identities, we're going to need alternative forms of education that teach students and children their histories in a conscious and empathetic way that gives students and people the resources that they need to live lives that align with how they feel about their bodies or themselves. And so when I was doing humanitarian aid work at the US-Mexican border a few weeks ago, I kept thinking, like, isn't it the state's job to make sure people are safe when they're trying to enter the US? Isn't it the state's job to provide people adequate health care when they're entering the US? Isn't it the state's job to do assessments of people to see how they've been harmed on their journeys along the way?
How about no?
Our immigration
No,
and
it's
border
not.
control
Get the
system
fuck out.
operates as a system of carcerality and enforcement. It isn't there to provide humanitarian aid.
The immigration system is a system of carcerality and enforcement. Okay. The left's primary issue at the core of their activism is abolish the police, abolish the prison industrial complex. When he is saying that border enforcement is carceral, what he is saying is ICE are the same as the cops. because the cops the left believes are the managers of capitalism, the managers of property, the protectors of property for the bourgeois capitalist class. This is why they want to abolish the police. They do not believe the police can be reformed. They believe the police can only be abolished, okay? They believe ICE is also a carceral system that is no different than the police because ICE are the protectors of the border. Capitalism means private property ownership. What do you need to have private property? A border. Therefore, ergo, ICE are the protectors of capitalism via protecting the border. That's why they are the same. That's why they're carceral.
I kept thinking, like, isn't it the state's job to make sure people are safe when they're trying to enter the US? Isn't it the state's job to provide people?
And by the way, when he says the term the state, he means the capitalist US government. We should be very clear about that because he's going to keep saying the state over and over and over again. When he's saying the state, the capitalist US government. And it's very important that you understand that he thinks it's capitalist because he thinks the entire country is built on capitalism. So that's what he means. It's not some nebulous government. He explicitly means the capitalist United States government.
Adequate health care when they're entering the US.
You got it.
Isn't it the state's job to do assessments of people to see how they've been harmed on their journeys along the way? Actually, it isn't. Our immigration and border patrol system operates as a system of carcerality and enforcement. It isn't there to provide humanitarian aid or medical care on an intrinsic level. It's there to enforce laws. And if those laws put people in danger and also lead to other forms of harm that don't need accountability in terms of border patrol or ICE agents physically assaulting migrants, taking away their private property, or making them fear for their lives. The mutual aid and the humanitarian organizations that I saw were addressing the damages, not only the damages and the active harm that the state was doing, but it was addressing the gaps in what the state claims it does and what it actually does in terms of even search and rescue, in terms of driving people to hospitals when they have called, when they've been walking around the desert for days and days and days, and they call an EMT, and that EMT will inevitably call ICE. Mutual aid might be a system where that EMT or that paramedic or the person answering 911 might actually contact a local organization that is able to pick someone up and provide them medical care in a way that helps them also remain undocumented if that is what that person wants. I think it involves
Gotta
an
protect the
inherent
illegals.
critique of how the elite hoard resources and then create scarcity, and that scarcity is exacerbated in crisis and it creates unnecessary suffering. So in this next part of the video, we're going to talk about different categories and forms of mutual aid. These are different ways of helping your community, of building resources, of addressing the social wrongs and gaps that capitalism and the state creates for us.
Good
But
idea,
the first
Sis
form
Kennedy.
of mutual aid in this category is food collectivism and distribution. Mutual aid efforts.
So basically what he's about to go into is the idea that mutual aid isn't just about giving money, although they do that. You can make food, you can donate goods, you can give people rides, you can give people, like, there are a million different ways to do mutual aid. So it's all about things that you are giving to the community.
And that scarcity is exacerbated in crisis and it creates unnecessary suffering. So in this next part of the video, we're going to talk about different categories and forms of mutual aid. These are different ways of helping your community, of building resources, of addressing the social wrongs and gaps that capitalism and the state creates for us. But the first form of mutual aid in this category is food collectivism and distribution. Mutual aid efforts under this category aim to create long-term strength and sustainability within communities by meeting essential needs and empowering individuals. These initiatives focus on addressing systemic inequalities while fostering solidarity and collective capacity for reliance. And there are a bunch of different kind of forms of food distribution that fall under even this form of mutual aid. You have food pantries and fridges, community fridges, where these fridges are accessible in public places and people can go to them and take out whatever produce or grocery items that they might need. You have food sovereignty programs like community gardens or seed banks where people come together and they grow and share the resources that are required to grow and garden together. Since corporations have such a monopoly on the produce and the fruits and vegetables that we get in our local communities, what would it look like for every neighborhood, every block, every quarter of a mile to have a massive community garden that people can have access to whether indoors or outdoors. We also have free meal distribution. So this is literally what I think about, like poor Black and brown communities, how some people like sell plates and some people just make plates to give out to people in their neighborhood. The auntie who has construction workers working at her house and she makes plates of food and is like, hey, do y'all want plates of food? Imagine if you did that for the neighborhood, or if you got 10 people to come together and cook and hand out food to people without housing.
Guys, do you know how the left gets people on their side? Do you know how the left is able to build out these massive, hyper-localized signal groups where they basically have like 80% of every neighborhood in Minneapolis in some sort of signal group? Do you know how they're able to do that? Because they're nice to each other. They're nice to each other. They give each other stuff. If people need food, they'll bring it to them. If people need their rent paid, they'll pay it. If people need a place to sleep and they have that, they will actually give it. You guys like to make fun of them for not housing. They do help. They do put, like, they're the ones that run the fucking shelters a lot of the times. How do you think they get so many people on their side? Because they do stuff like this to help each other. And maybe that's nice. Maybe that's actually kind of a nice thing to do.
Regular day or even a particular holiday. Free meal distribution can look like free kitchens or school lunch programs. Food Not Bombs is a great organization that we're going to talk about later, where volunteers
very
gather surplus
socialist,
food
very
and cook
leftist.
it
Food Not
in public
Bombs.
locations and do serves and hand out food to people. You can do canning circles where you can food together. You can do collective cooking nights with your friend and
No,
neighbors.
it doesn't. No. This is wrong. You say because they're only doing it because they operate in capitalism, doesn't it go away when that ends? No. You're seeing them implement communism. Mutual aid is implementing communism. You are seeing their vision for how the world should run. You are seeing their ideas for how they want things to operate in the communist utopia. We keep us safe does not end with capitalism. We keep us safe is the thing that overthrows capitalism.
Meal prep together. You can do food swaps or barter systems where maybe someone has a crap ton of a particular kind of fruit or vegetable that they grew and they just want to give it out, or they want to do a skill share where they trade that produce for something else with someone in their community. Food is one of the essentials of life that, based on your economic status or the level of privilege you have, you either have next to no access to quality, healthy food, whether it be the stores or grocery stores in your neighborhood, or even going to school. Like, I remember when I was in high school in Cleveland, Ohio, we toured the local jail and they showed us the food that they served them, and we were like, that's the food that you serve us. Even in that, like, I think food and health and bodily autonomy is such a signifier of the health of a society or a culture or a geographic space, and to instill political processes that give people the things that they need is such a powerful way to get people not only to have a better or quality way of life, but to have the basics so they can.
Hans, this is a really great way to put it. They see mutual aid as basic needs that should be met to humanity that capitalism negates. So if you can't afford food because capitalism makes food unaffordable, then they will feed you. That's what the food kitchens are about. If you can't afford rent because capitalism, evil landlord, the capitalist, blah, 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 whatever, they will pay your rent. If you need your car fixed, but you can't afford it because capitalism, they will fix your car if they have the ability to.
Begin to imagine and organize around other political missions that are in their communities. And one of the clearest examples of food collectivism and distribution is the Black Panther Party's Free Breakfast for Children program. So to give some context, the Black Panther Party's Free Breakfast for Children program fed thousands of children daily in underserved communities through the 1960s and 70s. It first began the Black Panther Party largely as an organization that was centered around community self-defense. And then once they got further into understanding the repression that they would be facing in terms of the changing gun laws in California, or how the local police were operating. They realized that
Correct. They do not believe in jails and they do not believe in cops. They want to abolish all police, abolish all prisons, let everyone out of prison. They believe that when they overthrow capitalism, they believe capitalism basically creates all crime due to oppression and poverty and whatnot. And when they overthrow capitalism, maybe they won't get rid of all the crime, but they'll get rid of like the vast majority of it. So they don't think they need prisons anymore or the police as we know it today. That's not to say they wouldn't have some enforcement force, but it would not be the same thing as the police because it would not be enforcing capitalism. Because remember, the left defines the police as the managers of private property. In the communist utopia, whatever force they had to enforce stuff, like wouldn't be capitalist, it'd be outside the capitalist system. So for them, regardless of whether you agree with them or not, it would be a different thing than the cops today.
really help and defend their communities, they needed to create these survival programs to help people have the basics of what they needed to even be healthy enough to meet the demands of a revolutionary political process of their time.
So we're not
I don't
just
study
paying
the UK,
attention
but
to
sorry.
to a black kid when they've been shot or when they've been falsely incarcerated. We're creating these kind of education, nutrition, community self-defense programs, awareness programs before that happens. And these kids themselves can be the organizers and the advocates for their peers. They can be that community watch. They can be those legal aid warriors, even without law degrees, right? And then understand that before you go to the courtroom to advocate for this person that's not famous because they're a political prisoner, but they're a political prisoner because of the system, that you've got to stop at the breakfast program. You've got to do that time. That's what you get your breakfast. Then you go to your assignment. Then we debrief. The lessons are there for us historically, but we've got to get out of these silos and not be talking to people in other areas, but also talking to each other from the bottom to the top. Or as Bundini Brown used to say, Muhammad Ali's, in his camp, let's organize from the root to the fruit.
I think a central question that we can ask when we're looking at food collectivism and distribution is, what role does food security play in our future and livelihoods? If there are certain children that are going to school and they're hungry, they're not going to be able to pay attention. If there are certain children that come home to houses where the cupboards are just filled with canned food, yes, they may have access to food, but how healthy is that food that they're being given versus a kid in a higher income neighborhood where the school lunches maybe have more that they're pulling from, or they have more resources, or they get better produce, or it's more organic. And so there are discrepancies in how food controls and dictates our quality of life. How I've done food collectivism and distribution in the past throughout my organizing journey is that me and my friends will regularly host communal dinners where we show up to each other's house. People bring dishes or drinks or little trinkets or games for us to play. And sometimes those communal dinners are centered around a political topic or a current political happening, or it's simply space for us to hang out, talk, share food, and make sure that people around us are fed, because sometimes people can often go home with the to-go. And then next on the forms of mutual aid list, we have healthcare. Healthcare mutual aid provides direct medical support and advocacy to address systemic neglect and ensure access to care. It operates on the principle of solidarity, responding.
This is where universal healthcare comes from. Everyone get this? Healthcare mutual aid means overcoming capitalism's restrictions on healthcare that you need, which means they're trying to provide universal healthcare. This is the precursor to universal healthcare. This is where this idea comes from.
To healthcare disparities in underserved communities. Big way that the Black Panther Party and the Young Lords addressed health and healthcare in their communities was looking at sickle cell anemia, was looking at lead testing and lead poisoning, was looking at the obstacles and things that their communities were facing.
Result of the basic need in the Black community for free medical service.
You had this done about 3 days ago, you said?
They do. What are you talking about? It's all community funded. This is all community funded. It's donations. It's volunteer time. It's all community funded. They pay for it. It is not outside funding.
This is not the burned hand. This is another one. Oh, okay.
Does it feel painful? No, it's not painful. Like it's infected and everything? You know, it's not painful. It's good. It's good, yeah.
We got doctors for every day this week. Next week, we need one for next Thursday.
Come to the clinic tomorrow for an appointment.
What are the chances of the ambulance now?
Hello?
If we can buy an ambulance, that's the best chance. What about, the idea is all right, but the idea is all right, but we just have money to get an ambulance. Well, how much, come to a used ambulance?
Yes. I tell you, I'm gonna bring a couple of pharmacists from the hospital. They want to come out and see it, and they're interested in working, you know.
We can have patients.
Hey, thanks, Derpy Dan, for the super chat. I'll pay for your thoughts on how does one atone for slights against the community? They have a process called restorative justice, which is basically like you have to make it, you have to listen to people talk about how you impacted. It's like a struggle session, basically. You have to listen to people talk about the impact, and then you have to atone for it in some way. And you have to atone for your sins, basically. But they don't put people in jail. They might, the most severe thing that they would probably do would be excommunicating people from their community, basically kicking them the fuck out, taking away their access to food, taking away their access to housing, GTFO, good luck, sending you into the wilderness, sir. But usually it's just through a restorative justice process. We can probably, we haven't watched a restorative justice presentation in a while, so we can probably do one of those at some point.
Come through, see a doctor. After they gets through, get a test, what happens. Then they comes in and see the people.
Oh, no. No. Wait, did you do this? It would be terrible if someone was in Cam's Discord posting that he is scared to debate Hans. Are you in Cam's Discord? I know you're subscribed to his channel. I know that's how you were able to troll him last night. By the way, you guys have Great Otis to thank for this. Just so everyone's clear, this is all Great Otis's fault. I didn't tell him to do this. I'm not going to stop you from doing it, though, but I'm not going to tell you to do it. I'm neutral on the matter. I am not involved. I'm simply teaching a class on mutual aid.
Person in the party who acts like a liaison between the center here itself and the community. He asked them what type of service they thought they got here in the center. Any other criticism that the medical center itself. It's also to deal with problems outside medical problems.
I got
People's
slime in my
Advocate
hair.
has a resource file. In this file, we have teachers, sociologists, speech therapists, social workers. This is all part of the resource file.
Okay, well, look ahead.
No matter what kind of society that we live in, we need healthcare. We need forms of medically intervening or addressing the social or physical harms that happen to people in the world that we live in. And so if we train in mutual aid forms of healthcare now, these same systems are going to be applicable in ideally a more liberated, revolutionary, or post-capitalist world. I view healthcare mutual aid as
They just said it. They are going to try to implement these ideas in a post-capitalist world because that is what all this is building towards. Mutual aid is a direct counter to capitalism. Therefore, what you see them doing with the mutual aid stuff, this is how they envision the future communist society running. They're basically trial running their ideas.
Form of prefigurative politic, as Martin Sostre, the jailhouse lawyer and revolutionary, would say. And one clear example of this throughout history is the Young Lords hospital takeover for equitable care. In July 1970, the Young Lords, a Puerto Rican activist group, staged a peaceful takeover of Lincoln Hospital in South Bronx to protest its deplorable conditions. This hospital was known as the Butcher Shop for its high mortality rates and substandard care. On July 14th, the Young Lords issued demands including better funding, culturally competent healthcare, and programs addressing lead poisoning and tuberculosis.
Well, are you correct in thinking that net takers from most mutual aid networks significantly outnumber the contributors? Maybe, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's not the point. What you are saying is a capitalist perspective. What they are saying is we give to the community what we can, and they take what they want to. They want them to take the things. They are giving the aid to the community in whatever form that must take. They want people to take the stuff. So whether or not the takers outnumber the givers, it doesn't really matter. They want them to take it.
Proportionally affecting the local Puerto Rican and Black community.
Print journalism and television, but also the police. This was an invasion of city property. It was quite a threat. And of course, it's illegal. So it got hot, as you would say.
The police came with everything they had. It was unreal.
We had a press conference announcing that we had taken over the hospital, that we had demands.
Community worker
Yeah.
control of the
So
hospital.
to bring you up to speed, Dilkers, basically they believe that nonprofits and NGOs uphold the capitalist system. And so they do not work with nonprofits and NGOs when it comes to mutual aid, because it would be taking money from the capitalist system. And mutual aid is a network that is deliberately built outside of the capitalist system for a reason. It's a conscious choice. So because they believe charity is not mutual aid and mutual aid is not charity, they think those are two different things. And we can watch a presentation from Dean Spade about this where they then will explain it more. Maybe they'll even get into it more in here. But yeah, NGOs are capitalist organizations, nonprofits are capitalist organizations. Therefore, any money is going to come with capitalist strings attached, which is the opposite of what they want.
Higher wage for the workers at the hospital, preventative health programs.
Action led to national attention, the creation of the first ever Patient Bill of Rights in collaboration with the Black Panther Party, and increased hospital funding, highlighting the effectiveness of direct action
Average
in
person.
addressing systemic neglect. This is a form of mutual aid that involves other forms of direct action as well. It involved a lockdown. It involved boycott of this institution. And it also involved swaying the people and the workers there to work with the young lords peacefully in order to allow the young lords to take over this hospital effectively and offer the people what they needed in the time spent that they were able to do this takeover. Another form of community mutual aid in healthcare can be hotlines and chat services. So volunteer-run crisis lines or online chat services that offer emotional support or counseling. I think of suicide hotlines. I think of LGBTQIA support hotlines for teenagers and minors that are in comfortable family life or geographic situations, and they need some kind of outside support. And if we're thinking about healthcare forms of mutual aid, one major tenet and pillar of this is harm reduction.
51 more people died of opioid overdoses in the first 9 months of this year compared to the same time period in 2020.
In this very room, across from parents who have lost their children to fatal overdoses, there's no way anybody with a heart and a soul could have those conversations and not recognize that we need to take advantage of every tool available to help keep people alive.
It's sad that it's at the point where people are so cold and so callous that they don't realize that people are literally walking out of a healthcare program, whether it's a hospital, a treatment center, or whatever, and they're going home and they're overdosing and dying.
Another tool that's already being implemented is a hotline called Never Use Alone. We just heard from Berkshire County paramedic Stephen Murray. He is also the director of the New England affiliate of the Never Use Alone hotline. The way it works, if a person is going to use drugs alone, they're encouraged to call that hotline. A trained volunteer will stay on the phone with them to make sure they don't overdose. The operator will call 911 if that person becomes unresponsive.
Harm reduction is an approach to mutual aid that addresses people that have been stigmatized because of certain modes of behavior, because of substance use disorders, or general coping mechanisms that help them process the world as we know it. And harm reduction says, we aren't going to judge you for the behavior that you exhibit, for the drugs that you are addicted to, for the substances that you use, but instead we are going to offer you the resources that you need to do this behavior in a healthier and less dangerous way. And some clear examples of harm reduction that have come up, obviously, in the US since the opioid crisis is naloxone distribution, which is a drug that
Yeah, of
helps bring
course.
people back
Of course
once
they
they've
are.
begun the process of overdosing, or clean needle exchanges. Needles are a great source of infection and the passing of certain illnesses and diseases for people that use.
Thank you for watching this Direct Action
Uh-oh.
101 series.
No.
Cooperators
No
for
ads.
Restoration
No ads.
and the health.
Socialists.
The next form as that I want administration. Thank you. Now back to the episode. The next form of mutual aid that I want to dig into is educational mutual aid, and this can be defined as mutual aid that disrupts inequitable systems by creating alternative spaces for learning and skill sharing. It prioritizes community empowerment and the democratization of knowledge. It could be 5 degrees and there'd be no heat at your school, and they'd say, "Oh, you're not having a snow day. You're from the hood." Education, through so many revolutionary ideologies and perspectives, especially Che Guevara, the Cuban Revolution, education is a pillar of how we raise consciousness and empower people to take more control over their lives. Because if
What did he just say? Pop quiz for the chat. Education is how we raise consciousness and encourage people to take more control over their lives. What does that mean? This is why it's so important that people understand what the left means when they say things, guys. You need to be able to articulate this. What did he mean when he said, let's listen to it again, and you guys can put some answers in the chat.
perspectives, especially Che Guevara, the Cuban Revolution, education is a pillar of how we raise consciousness and empower people to take more control over their lives. Because
education is a tool that we use to raise consciousness and empower people to take more control over their lives. What did he just say? What does that mean? You guys are all going to owe me channel memberships after I teach you this, okay? Everyone ready to owe me a channel membership? Because the rule is that if I teach you something, you owe me a channel membership. What does class consciousness mean? Bought, in with a W. Education is our way of making the kids socialists by waking them up to the fact that they are in an oppressed class under capitalism, and that the only way to truly empower and liberate themselves is to overthrow capitalism. That is what he just said. When you're talking about raising class consciousness, you're saying help the wee ones in the educational system become aware that they are oppressed by this all-powerful force. That's what class consciousness is, to become aware that you are a part of an oppressed class. And then the only way to liberate yourself is to overthrow capitalism. And P.S., when they say capitalism, they mean the United States government. Yo, Bella Lagos, thank you so much for the channel membership. Now, 1 in the chat if I just taught you something new that you didn't know before. 2 in the chat if you knew all that and you were totally going to answer that, and you just didn't get a chance to type it in yet, but you were going to say exactly that. 1 in the chat if I just taught you something new that you didn't know before the stream. 2 in the chat if you knew all that, you just didn't know how to say it exactly. Okay, here's the rule, guys. Here's the rule. I'm seeing some ones in the chat. Pay up. Can we get up to 75 channel memberships? Can we hit our 75% goal in channel memberships? In fact, guys, again, you guys fund these streams for me. I will shut up about channel memberships as soon as we meet our goal. I promise. Since I taught so many people something new, can you guys chip in a channel membership? Can we get up to 75 before we keep going? Tayton! Thank you, Tayton. I appreciate the super chat. Dude, you rock. Way to actually show people what mutual aid is from a radical left perspective. Love you. I love you, Tayton. Thank you so much. You guys want to keep going? You guys enjoying this? You guys learning stuff? Yo, we got Tim in with a channel membership. Thank you so much, Tim. Appreciate it. We got Duchess in, coming in with a 5. Thank you, Duchess. Very generous. W's to you, madame. W's to you, Tim, as well. That's, what was that? That was 6 more. Guys, can we get like, what is that? 7 more? 7 more? Just trying to keep us on track with the goals, guys, so I don't have to ask you for channel memberships the entire stream, because that kind of sucks. It sucks for me, it sucks for you, but it must be done. It must be done, because that's how this works. You guys want to keep going? Let's get 7 more channel memberships, please. And thank you. We could do 7 people donating 1. We could do 1 person donating 5 and 2 people donating 1. We could do 1 person donating 10. We have options. We have options depending on how valuable you think my work is today. But if people don't think it's valuable, I can totally go do something else. Like, that is the rule. We got Pretty in. Pretty Sweet Pete, thank you so much for the gifted channel membership. I appreciate you very, very much. We got Derpy Dan in with another one. God, we need 5 more. We need just 5 more. We need 5 more. Derpy Dan, W's to you, sir. Thank you. Oh, shit, and I just deleted the membership banner. Just deleted the membership banner. Just did that. That's okay, because you guys still owe me 5 more channel memberships. Channel membership progress / goal. 70 out of 100. There we go. Well. All right, who's getting us over the 75% mark? I know someone's going to do it. I know someone's going to do it, and we're not continuing with the class until someone does it. Just trying to keep you guys honest. I can sit here and play with slime all day. I've got like so much slime on my desk. It's Rumble's turn. Rumble, bot says it's your turn. Hey, gifted channel memberships count on Rumble too. No membership, no class. No membership, no class. Well, old sub all the time. W's good, sir. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Well, you know, the thing is, Master Shake, this is not communism. This is not communism. You are in my fascist dictatorship now, my friend. And in my fascist dictatorship, no memberships, no class. No memberships, no teaching. No memberships, no losing my voice and causing myself massive frustration on the internet for no good reason. That's the way it rolls, guys. That's the way it rolls. Old sub in with the win. Thank you so much for getting us across the 75% point. Appreciate you very much, bro. Love ya.
If you can be educated, if you can understand the boundaries of history and the state and the political structures that we live under, you can begin to imagine alternatives. And one of the
Yo, we got Chicalago! W! Thank
mutual
you!
aid is Black Panther Party's free school program.
To that, literally on television, storming the state capitol in Sacramento, calling for self-defense, talking about Black folks being on. And I was like, I wanted, because you want to, if I'm going to be militant, let me be part of the most militant group on the scene. I'm 15 years old. And they were the Panthers. And 2 other friends and I went to the Panther office. And as we were taking the train from the Bronx down to Harlem, I wasn't quite sure what I was getting into, especially because my friends were saying stuff like, you know, when you join the Panthers, there's no getting out. It's like the mafia. And my inner voice is like, no getting out. I got a 9 o'clock curfew tonight.
Yeah, everyone needs to donate, not just old sub and
yourself
Hans.
to be a Panther. You got to kill a white dude. I was like, kill somebody? I sing in the youth choir on Sunday. That's my inner voice. Well, we get to the Panther office, and there's the Black Panther logo. We step inside. There's all the older brother Panthers and sisters, you know, rocking their leather jackets. Some had on army fatigue jackets, dashikis, afros, cornrows, berets, and I'm just blown.
Guys, everyone does what they can with the channel memberships. I'm not trying to guilt anyone that can't afford it into giving. I'm trying to very nicely ask the people who can afford to give. That's it, though. So I don't want anyone to feel bad that you're not giving as many memberships as like old sub or anyone else. I don't want anyone to feel bad because old sub is a fucking king and a legend. Like, hey, you can't match up against that. Like, I mean, it's all good. But I do appreciate everyone who donates. I really, really do. Whether it's 1 or 5 or 10 or whatever, you guys make all this work. And I really do like value you so, so very much. Tayton again with a super chat. Education is never free. If you want free, then go watch Ham Pigby and learn nothing. So real and true, Tayton. I really appreciate it, bro.
Away. Now, I say older brothers and sisters because I was 15. They were older to me. But the Panthers in that meeting were 18, 19, 21, 22 years old. The person running the meeting is explaining the Panther 10-point program, which is now written, I think, 57, 58 years ago. But if you read it, it could have been written last year. And it talks about housing, medical care, community control, education. Police brutality is point number 7. It's way down there in a way. We want an immediate end to police brutality and the murder of Black people. I'm not really hearing what he's saying because my heart is pounding. I want to prove to myself. I want to prove to my friends. So I jump up and I say, choose me, brother. On me. I'll kill a white dude right now. Whole meeting gets quiet. Brother running the meeting calls me up front. We're all sitting in folding wooden chairs and
It's all
he's
good.
behind us.
All good, bro.
Old wooden
All
desk
good.
facing us like a large
Don't worry about
classroom. And when I come up front, he reaches into the bottom drawer of the desk, and I think he's going to hand me a gun. He hands me a stack of books. Autobiography of Malcolm X, Wretched at Earth by Frantz Fanon, Soul on Ice by Eldridge Cleaver, and of course the Red Book, quotations from Chairman Mao. You know, all Panthers had that Red Book. I said, excuse me, brother, I thought you were going to arm me. And he said, excuse me, young brother, I just did.
Huh.
And then as I'm walking back to my seat, he says, young brother, I want to ask you a question since you came in here so mad at white people. He said, of all of these pig police that are in the community, brutalizing people, beating people up, locking people up, shooting people down, if they were all Black and all the victims of police brutality were white, he said, these slumlords, buildings that are falling down, rats and running up and down the hallway, no heat in the winter, if all of the slumlords were Black, and the people living like that were white. He said, these jive, fascist pig politicians, congressmen, senators, the Supreme Court, the president, if all of them were Black and all the oppressed people were white, would that make things correct? And I said, no, sir, it seems like it would still be wrong. And for the first time he smiled. He said, that's right, young brother. This here is a class struggle for human rights, not just a race struggle for civil rights. Study those books so you can understand what revolution is about. And one last thing. There was a poster of Che Guevara on the wall. And there's a quote from a speech that Che gave at the United Nations. And the quote was, at the risk of sounding ridiculous, let me say that revolutionaries are guided by great feelings of love.
Yeah.
So my head was spinning, my world was turned upside down, and within 15 minutes of walking to a Panther office.
Guys, mutual aid is an act of revolutionary love. We've heard that term many times in other presentations. The love you have for each other outside of the bounds of capitalism, the love that you have for each other outside the bounds of biological kinship and the nuclear family, revolutionary love, red love. They believe this. It might sound cheesy. You might be skeptical. You might not believe that this guy is authentic. I don't really give a fuck. They believe this. This is at the core of their ideology. It is at the core of their organizing principles. When they are doing mutual aid, they are giving of themselves, they are giving of their money, they are giving of their resources to help the comrades in solidarity with the community. That is an act of revolutionary love.
I started to have a context of struggle and an approach to revolution that not only shaped my experiences in the Black Panther Party, as political prisoner of war, the BLA, but till this day about that approach to struggle, understanding the real foundation, what we're fighting for, and understanding the utmost that we need to be guided by great feelings of love for the people.
To highlight a bit more of this, I'm going to be reading a lot from this particular book called Surviving Pending Revolution, The History of the Black Panther Party. And there are a number of sections in this that break down the distinctions and processes and details about the Black Panther survival programs and how they came to be. In this text, when it's talking about the free schools, It reads, liberation schools also began in 1969. They became crucial elements in the
Oh God, liberation schools, schools outside of capitalism. Thank you, Tate, in participation in capitalism in the pursuit of communism. Hey, I appreciate that, bro. Thank you so much. Yeah, guys, people are watching. Just so you guys know, there's a movie night in my supporter Discord in about 2 hours. Channel members can find the link in the post tab in the community. Just chat into the verification channel and I will verify you before movie night. MacB is watching Misery tonight, so you can go right from socialism into watching Misery in the supporter Discord if you want.
drive. Liberation schools were a familiar concept in the Black community because they had been an organizing tactic used by Southern civil rights groups. The Southern Liberation Schools had served as a central location for explaining the civil rights movement to community members. They had also been used as an ad hoc education sites and as a recruiting device for demonstrations and voting rights drives. Party liberation schools resulted from the good relations that began with the free breakfasts. Panthers began to encourage children to return for other activities. The San Francisco Liberation School served more than 25 children daily. The weekly curriculum was as follows: Monday, History Day; Tuesday, Culture Day; Wednesday, Field Trips; Thursday, Revolutionary Films; Friday, Current Events. Songs and games were utilized to convey the Panther message. Children learned how to recite and explain the 10-point program and platform. In Staten Island, New York, children aged 7 to 12 were instructed in the roots and essence of a people's revolution. One teaching device designed to—
Guys, everyone understands this is basically like schools in critical race theory, right? That's what we're talking about. They're teaching kids communism. That's what the liberation school is. They're teaching, like, you guys know how they integrated critical race theory into K through 12 education and all that gender bullshit too. These are entire schools that just teach that. It's like exclusive of everything else.
To appeal to children as a cartoon illustrating the 10-point program. And it goes on to read, the curriculum at most liberation schools consisted of basic academic skills and current events gleaned from newspapers and party literature. Community volunteers and Panthers staffed the schools. Some volunteers were college students who were able to impart a semblance of professional instruction at their locations. Professional academic instruction, however, was not the primary goal of liberation schools from 1969 to 1971. Instruction in Panther ideology and African American history were the most important items in the curriculum. This was not only because the Panthers lacked the expertise to do anything else, but also because the academic potential of the liberation schools was not yet recognized by the leadership. That oversight was corrected within 2 years. The Panther Party's most successful educational program was established in 1971 as the Intercommunal Institute. The name was changed to Oakland Community School in 1975.
Again, you are not understanding this. It does not matter if it's one-sided. And it is not just the rich communists, bro. It is not. That is bullshit. Again, this is your conservative cope because you don't fucking understand something. People give what they have. They give what they want. It could be giving anything. It's not just fucking money. We are watching a section about education right now. Does it cost money for some communists to go teach at a kid's communist liberation school? No, it doesn't. It's like a Saturday afternoon fucking program, okay? So it doesn't fucking matter how many people are giving and how many people are receiving. It doesn't matter who is doing the giving, whether they are rich or poor or it's somewhere in between, and there is every single type of person participating in this. And just because I don't think so is not actually a valid form of evidence, okay? From each according to their ability, to each according to their need. These are their organizing principles. What do poor communists really do? They volunteer. They give them rides. They do stuff for them. They teach them things. They babysit their kids. There could be any number of things that people with less fucking money do. And P.S., wrap your fucking head around this. There's not going to be money in the communist utopia, so it doesn't fucking matter how rich you are now or how poor you are now. It doesn't fucking matter. They're getting rid of money in the communist utopia anyway.
I go to school at the Open Community Learning Center. My school was started.
Have I seen the
by the
website?
Black
What website?
Panther
Oh yeah, I've
Party.
seen that website. Yeah, we've been on that website before.
The earliest age you start going to the school.
That's the PSL bot. Guys, we've taken classes from liberationschool.org before. This is where we took the comrade class. This is they have a whole we took this 3-part comrade class years ago. We need to do the comrade class again, obviously. We took this was probably fucking at least 3 years ago. We took a 3-part class from that Liberation School website on how to be a good comrade and what it means to be a comrade and what it means to be in solidarity and all that bullshit.
We don't have grades in our school. We have levels.
No grades. Grades are hierarchy. They have levels.
They put us in different levels based on what we can do.
We need to know the things that you're thinking because you come up with fresh ideas, you see.
And I talked to your mother today. And Kalita, aren't you supposed to be at the Justice Court meeting? Well, you really have to remember the Justice Court meetings, okay? You should go up now.
Today, Carol sent me a letter about Sherry not doing her homework. The Justice Committee.
This is restorative justice. You guys were asking about restorative justice earlier. You are witnessing a kindergarten or elementary school level of restorative justice where they are charging a classmate with a infraction of some sort, and they are going to deliver some restorative justice. It's a kid's struggle session in the Liberation School. Okay.
Well, you really have
Good
to
find, Reagan. Jeez.
Okay, you should go up now.
Today, Carol sent me a letter about Sherry not doing her homework. The Justice Committee gives you a method correction if you don't do your homework, if you play in class, if you talk back to teachers or try to fight teachers.
The community is implementing the restorative justice. The community is delivering the restorative justice. Do you guys see this?
I just forget about it. I lay it someplace and just forget about it and go on to other things. Why you do that? I don't know. You need a method of correction. I think she shouldn't have no TV when she go home, and she shouldn't have free time. I think the Justice Board.
No TV, no free time when they go home. The community is holding itself accountable.
Treated Sherry okay because she needed.
Yo, we got a super chat from Old Sub. Is the 10 points they're referring to a Saul Alinsky 10 point into installing a socialist government? I don't know, Old Sub. That's a good question. I wasn't paying close enough attention, I suppose, but I'm not sure what that's from. But thanks for the super chat. I appreciate you. Guys, we're still 24 channel memberships away from the goal, just to keep everyone on track.
A method correction, and a method correction from a teacher or somebody means they love you.
Community Learning Center also had a night school where adults studied for their general equivalency degrees or GEDs. There were 16 accredited instructors and 15 volunteers and aides. The school's director, Erica Huggins, served on the Alameda County Board of Education. The OCS not only offered a quality private school education, but also instilled a sense of self-worth. OCS's day program offered a full curriculum to students between age 2 and 1.5 to 11. Subjects covered language arts, Spanish, mathematics, science, social sciences, and environmental studies, physical education, performing arts, and visual arts. The school provided 3 full meals a day, referrals for preventative health care, and 3 passenger buses for transporting children to and from school. There was no tuition. Longstanding party rules have formally prevented the Panthers from accepting government money. This prohibition was quietly dropped in the 1970s. The OCS became eligible to apply for and accept state education funds. These kind of histories are so important to unpack on a specific level because even reading there, you get a sense of how many volunteers they had to have, the fact that they needed to have a physical location to house these programs, the fact that they needed people to sit down and plan the curriculum, adapt it to timely events, the fact that they had people that were volunteers, university students, maybe even
Thanks,
people
Master
that were
Shake.
teachers
Thanks.
as well.
Breaking
If we're
news.
looking at the current
Breaking
political
news, bro.
environment that we're in with public
Breaking
schooling
news.
potentially being beholden to national whims or state-based whims or local whims that might turn more conservative or denigrate certain kind of histories or completely erase diversity, equity, and inclusion altogether. These kind of models of building resources, building community programs, offering the things that make sending your child to this school easy, better. You provide transportation, you don't charge them or you charge them very little. And this becomes a way of building community trust and also instilling really radical and liberatory kind of ideas to the youth.
And then you politically educate folks, and that's why you build what they call popular support. That's why part of why no Panthers were killed in the LA shootout was the brilliance of Geronimo Pratt, who built up the defenses, the defense system and sandbags and trained the Panthers. Geronimo Pratt was Deputy Minister of Defense. He was a Vietnam veteran, but also those community programs that when the police were doing that shootout, which lasted for about 13 hours, the whole time people were on the streets behind barricades watching, saying, "Don't you murder those Panthers. Don't you murder those comrades. Don't you murder," and the grandmothers were out there, "Don't you murder those children. Those are my babies. I saw them grow up. Or if they didn't see them grow up, they feed my grandbabies."
The next form of mutual aid that we'll talk about is housing-based mutual aid. Housing mutual aid combats systemic displacement and provides immediate solutions for those at risk of losing their homes. These efforts prioritize community-led action over reliance on institutional systems. And some of the specific inequities or wrongs that this could address is evictions and lack of tenant protections, particularly for lower income tenants, the criminalization of homelessness through camp sweeps and eviction and anti-squatting laws, predatory housing policies targeting lower income folks. Think of the 2008-2009 housing crisis where loans were offered to lower income folks that a lot of these banks knew that theoretically these people would not be able to pay back, but they trapped them in a system of debt. Black individuals make up 40% of the US's homeless population, despite being 13% of the general population. And when we think about the extreme systemic factors and inequalities that lead to this, there are so many things that might need to be addressed if we're thinking about housing mutual aid or fixing other social institutions that lead to people becoming houseless, whether it be policing, whether it be domestic violence, whether it be drug addiction, or whether it be unstable or low income jobs. And one of the most common ways of housing mutual aid that I've personally seen is camp sweeps and eviction defenses. Here locally, I did an interview with an organizer named Sam who does work with Stop the Sweeps and does all kinds of other housing organizing and activism.
I am a housing organizer and do some advocacy and do a lot of work in the mutual aid spaces here in Central Ohio. I feel like a lot of the work that I do kind of is centered around supporting unhoused people in various different ways. And a lot of how that's progressed from like when I first started several years ago up until now has been more based off of honing very deep relationships with people and people in the community and kind of being attached to people in these longer ways in support and also in sharing knowledge and resources and things like that and trying to get people into housing.
And you mentioned community and being intentional around that. Why is that so important in mutual aid? Because a lot of people can think of mutual aid as like, I put a box of food out in front of my, like near my mailbox and people that are walking by can pick it up, or like, why is community kind of the step that takes it further?
I think mutual aid in like its smallest forms is people reciprocating and supporting each other, both materially and emotionally in all these different ways, going from the individual to maybe your group of friends to a larger community of people into larger aspect. People just organize themselves in specific ways. And once you get into the larger community that needs support, the aspects of mutual aid kind of grow exponentially, and the possibilities that are able to happen kind of grow exponentially. And that can be with your friends, that could be, you know, in the housing community or in the homeless community. I've noticed that it's been incredibly important in terms of knowledge, where people are, how people are affected when sweeps are happening. It kind of makes things exponential. Like if someone disappears, you know, and you can't find them and you need to find them, like it's easier to do that when you're supported by a community of people, or like you're known in the community and you're trusted. I also know that for me specifically, it's also trying to understand people's like strengths and weaknesses. Like I've been in a lot of homeless spaces where I've seen a lot of people who literally organize every day and do the most, like, in my mind, maybe some of the most pure forms of mutual aid and community-based organizing. And it's also trying to
Hey
help
guys,
those.
do you guys know how they're getting homeless people to do crazy shit for them? You guys know how in Portland they are harnessing the homeless population to do crazy shit for them? Do you guys know how that's happening? Mutual aid. How are they able to build relationships with the homeless people to get the homeless people to do stuff for them? They give them food, and they give them drugs, and they give them money, and they take care of them, and they do these things where they make sure they have food and stuff to eat and stuff like that. When people do nice stuff for you, you tend to want to do something for them. So how they're utilizing the homeless population to do all their crazy shit, they get to them with mutual aid.
Those people, build those people up. There's so many different aspects of being involved in a community and different ways of supporting people. And this probably goes into the other aspect too, is like if we're supporting people, we're entrenched in these communities. If we're trying to organize around this, like why can't they be a part of that organizing process as well? If you're building a relationship with anybody who has a different class position than you, I think that maybe is the distinction, because we're trained in a way to where if you're not principled in the very beginning of the process, then I feel like it just can spiral into this model of we're just doing everything. Like a lot of nonprofits that do this kind of support are functioning as like a narrative band-aid for like the systematic oppression that has continued throughout the United States.
The nonprofits are functioning as a band-aid for the systematic oppression. The nonprofits are upholding capitalism. That's what he just said. They don't want to work with the nonprofits. Mutual aid is outside of nonprofits because nonprofits uphold capitalism. Mutual aid is fundamentally anti-capitalist.
I feel like it just can spiral into this model of we're just doing everything. Like a lot of nonprofits that do this kind of support are functioning as like a narrative band-aid for like the systematic oppression that has continued throughout the United States and like across its history. And a lot of these charities and nonprofits are funded by the city, funded by the state, and funded by the federal government, and they're giving grants. And they oftentimes, although they do help a lot, I think it gives people this narrative perception that this is the solution, when it actually is not the solution. It's solving a
Yeah, I mean, listen, Adam, I would love to reach the funding goal. I would love to. Can we reach the funding goal by the halfway point of the presentation, and then the entire rest of the presentation I won't have to ask? Can we make that dream a reality? Even people in the audience are asking, can we meet the channel? We still have half a presentation to go, and I could ask many more times, but it's really up to you guys how many times I have to ask about the channel membership goal. I would say I hope so, Adam, but we'll see. We'll see how much people like me today.
symptom to the deeper problem, which is like social inequity and class polarization. It disenfranchises people in the sense that it takes people's like personal autonomy and mutual aid like out of their own hands, and it puts that energy in the control of the state apparatus. It funnels, I feel like, a lot of radical energy into this zeitgeist of like, we're helping, we're serving, we're doing all these things, but it doesn't actually like solve the deeper issues. And I feel like it very often plays as like a way to co-opt radical activists who like want to do good, and then they're burnt out and mad and upset because it's like you could help 200 unhoused people and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like there's probably 5,000 unhoused people being created every 5 months. These natural disasters become more relevant. The housing crisis is going to continue to be just more and more relevant because we're going to see tens of thousands of people becoming unhoused at mass, like in 1 second. Also in harm reduction and like a lot of other fields, like the state actively collaborates with the nonprofits that have kind of funneled them into this space. So it's like they're like the police are actively trying to coordinate sweeps with outreach. The police are actively trying to discuss which houses they are going to raid with harm reduction. Like the police are actively trying to do like sting operations on like sex workers and using nonprofits as like a mode of information. Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like I first got into it really just like being in DIY spaces, having parties to raise funds for like RISIS, like people trying to cross the border. We raised funds for like Amber Evans. We did a lot of fundraising to get a PA system and just stuff like that, like helping people do more shows. And so that was like a big portion of like some of the stuff that I did initially. And then as it kind of developed and I got into more stuff here in Columbus, I kind of got into the housing component and like unhoused through Camp Shameless. And that was just through being very involved in like a lot of the George Floyd organizing that was happening during that time.
You don't say.
Some of the stuff that came out of that was like a lot of these like big mutual aid groups that were being formed around housing insecurity and like the large amount of people that were becoming unhoused during the pandemic. So they were organizing around one camp. It kind of functioned as like a self-sustaining like healing camp that was trying to get people like housed and get people essentially stabilize people enough so they could like actually work and do stuff.
If you can provide someone safe, stable, and affordable or free housing, you can literally change the trajectory of their life. A few years ago, when I was traveling around Europe and I met some folks from Spain, they ended up inviting me to Barcelona, and I ended up meeting a bunch of people that were part of a housing federation
Yeah.
that will go into
Thanks, Prince.
empty
I
or unused
appreciate it.
units, squat those units. Squatting is known as the process of living in an already owned house or property. And
See, this is where they're talking about using squatters' rights to basically confiscate private property. Yo, Kristen! And with the 5 W's, Kristen! Thank you so much for getting us ever so close to our goal.
Or unused units, squat those units. Squatting is known as the process of living in an already owned house or property. And there are specific laws that allow for people that have lived there for a number of period of time to have legal precedent to stay there.
Your job and you've got no family there behind you supporting you. It's like, where'd you go? You can't afford your rent. I'm going to go to my mum's. Wait, my mum's not there for me. What do I do? It is difficult. I mean, when you've been on the streets and you've been street homeless and you get a building like this, it's kind of like, wow, I've actually got a bedroom again. It's a warm place to sleep tonight. You feel like you're getting something back in your life again. And then when the bailiffs come and you get kicked out of the building, I mean, we're only using a building that's empty. No one's using it, are they? That cinema has been empty for years. It was dusty when we got in there. We cleaned it up. This is 1 year later and this building's still empty. It's like, why couldn't we just live in it until you decide to do something with it? The first month was great. We didn't do anything with the cinema. It was all just chilling, getting on with what we had to do. Then you get middle-class people coming in. And then that's when you start getting debates and what you call politics.
The great Otis. Great Otis. The instigator with Cam Higbee. The legend of the Keno Casino streams in with the final 20 gifted channel memberships to put us over our goal. Thank you, Great Otis. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you especially for trolling Cam because that was funny as shit. Welcome to all the 20 new channel members. What a fucking legend. Thank you, Great Otis. You rock.
We call squalitics. So it's like, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this on this day, you can't do that on that day. So then you start making all these crazy rules and you make a board up of all different rules and everyone's got to follow it. And then the homeless people are more like, you know, we're all about housing, it's wrong what you're doing, you're trying to kick people back on the streets. I'm homeless, where am I going to go? If I kick you out, you're going to go back to mummy and daddy. I ain't got that. So yeah, you get a lot of hate going on in the squats. When the groups start getting smaller, you need to do something to sort of like recruit new squatters. And the only way you can recruit new squatters is holding events, making it fun. So you got to hide the fact that that difficult side of the squatting about where it's all hate and, you know, no one's getting on. You got to make it about partying. We're having good fun.
Yeah,
Let's
you're gonna get it. Don't worry,
Let's do that. Let's make banners and let's put statements on the wall and things like that. And then people are like, yeah, I love this. This is great. I want to do it. And then you get people coming into the squat scene. If I couldn't get no outreach food, I'd come to Sainsbury's bins. That's how we fed people in the squats. If we didn't get donations, I had to go skipping. So people go to different places and get food. One time I found 220 bags of cheese and onion Walker's crisps, you know, like the big bags in boxes. Go, guys, who wants crisps? And the thing about skipping is, you know, it's always food waste only. So, you know, there's going to be nothing else in there.
But at least in Spain, I got to see really clearly, like I actually got to go with them. And there was a day where we went into an empty unit in an apartment building, put new locks on the doors, started cleaning, all within the span of like 5 hours. And also in those 5 hours, the police showed up. A large crowd of people were gathered outside, blocking the door. The police, because of the way that things were happening culturally and economically at the time, didn't push back. And this squat was able to be established. And I even got to attend meetings where people voted on what local community members, whether they be migrants or refugees or low-income people, to receive this squatted house. Housing is one of the biggest things that was a topic of discussion during the COVID-19 pandemic. How many cities and states passed moratoriums on evictions? How many cities and states offered additional resources for people to pay their utility bills? Why was a crisis necessary for those humane policies to become more possible? And how could those same policies be beneficial to people now? The next form of mutual aid that I want to dig into that has been of great personal importance this year is legal support. Legal support!
Lawyers! But where do the lawyers come from, Karlyn? Who pays the lawyers? Mutual aid.
No more brothers in jail. No more brothers in jail.
The crowd of Black Panthers and Panther supporters was considerably reduced from yesterday's opening demonstration. They chanted and sang, but without the impact of the day before. Despite the smaller turnout, security around the courthouse remained tight. In the courtroom, Attorney Charles Gary continued to present testimony on his motion to reconstitute the jury panel, charging that under the present system, it is impossible for Newton to receive his constitutional right to a trial by a jury of his peers because his peers are not represented. The start of the jury selection may be only a few days away, but meanwhile, Gary is also continuing his appeals for a continuance until he has exhausted efforts to have a previous felony conviction overruled. Gordon Graham, KRON-TV News.
Legal support is a form of mutual aid that ensures activists and vulnerable individuals can resist systemic repression. It involves collective efforts to provide bail, funds, legal defense, and advocacy. I both have had experiences organizing around this year related to the Boeing 5 case, but also growing up, I had an incarcerated parent from age 12 to 18, and then they went to prison again when I was 19 until I was like 20. There's so many things I could talk about with this experience, but I look back And I can recognize how there was stigma involved in how I was told to react, how going to the prison and visiting and being in this very sterile environment and having to put my things in a locker and being constantly under surveillance while talking to a parent. When I look back, there are so many potential mutual aid solutions that would have remedied some of the financial and emotional damage of this experience, whether it be vouchers that could have been offered to help us pay for rent or transportation or education, since if you're in a two-parent household and you lose one of your parents to incarceration, that's half of the income. I wish there had maybe been peer support groups or some kind of emotional space for me and other people in my family to engage in. And I think mutual aid in the legal defense sense can be seen as, how do we help people combat repression in the legal system as it stands? And also, how can we help people deal with the emotional and personal ramifications of dealing with the carceral state? We can obviously look at the incarceration rates if you read books like The New Jim Crow or you watch documentaries like 13. Black people are more disproportionately affected by the carceral system in terms of the statistics and how we're represented. And so I want to bring in a few different examples of legal support. During the Panther 21 trial in 1869, 21 Black Panther members in New York were falsely accused of planned bombings. Mutual aid networks provided bail funds, legal representation, and widespread community advocacy.
Even in the growing mood of paranoia.
I'm not going to say the Great Otis posted Cam's Discord link on Twitter, but Great Otis posted Cam's Discord link on Twitter. I thought you guys were sharing Cam's Discord link in a chat. I thought it was in a group chat. I didn't think Great Otis posted the fucking Discord link to Twitter. Yeah. Get 'em, boys. I just retweeted that shit.
And defeat. An individual who believed in the idea of revolution could take on the power of the state and defeat it. One morning, armed police stormed into Afeni Shakur's apartment and arrested her. All the other members of her cell were also arrested. They were charged with what the government said was a giant plan to destroy those elements of society which the defendants call the power structure. It included attacking police stations,
the power
planning to bomb
structure,
5 large department stores, and the Bronx Botanical Gardens. They became known as the Panther 21. Their trial was held in a state of paranoia about further attacks by the Panthers. But it also caused a sensation when it was revealed that 3 of the founding members of the group had been undercover police officers. What was stranger was that some of those officers seemed to have been unaware that there were other undercover agents in the cell. They were also the most active members of the group. We had to organize everything, one of the undercover agents explained at the trial, because everyone else in the group was off doing what they called their own shit. Unlike all the other Panthers, Afeni Shakur chose to defend herself. And at the end of the trial, she cross-examined the leading undercover agent. He was the man she had suspected from the start, Yedwa Sudan. His real name was Ralph White. A journalist who was in the courtroom wrote a book that described what happened. She started by getting White to admit that really most of the inspiration for the plots came from the undercover agents. Not only had they continually pushed for the violence and suggested the targets, but they had also arranged to buy the dynamite of yet another undercover agent. They had also arranged for the cars to transport the dynamite. That really, the plot to attack America had been created and driven by the American authorities. But then Afeni Shakur went further. She talked to White in the courtroom, not as a police officer, but as a comrade that she had spent 18 months with.
Comrade!
And asked him about the activism that they had done together in the community. He said that he thought what they had done was powerful, inspiring, and he said, beautiful. She asked if he had misrepresented the Panthers to his police bosses. He said yes.
We can look at 2017 and the first presidency of Donald Trump. When Inauguration Day happened, over 200 people were arrested. And this began the J20 campaign and struggle to defend those 200 people that were subjected to racketeering charges, to trumped up felony charges. The website that was used to garner people and get them interested in the J20 rally, which people legally signed up to, there wasn't anything they were signing up to that was illegal. The state tried to survey that website and gain all of the IP addresses of the people that had visited it. So we can see how repression causes terror in the body, the individuals that.
Guys, if you're joining Cam's Discord, which of course I would actively discourage you from doing, I would never do such a thing. But if you are joining Cam's Discord, can you please just try to like slow roll that shit? Like don't blow your fucking load, okay? That's all I ask. Don't go out in a blaze of glory on the first day. Just like slow. It is much better to slow roll it than to go out in a blaze of glory on the first day. Okay.
Face that repression, but how it also increases the state's capacity to go against our human rights, to survey us, and how legal support is a way that we can begin to build out processes that help us all deal with repression when it will inevitably happen, in terms of the way that
bide your time. It's okay.
Repression is the inevitable outcome of any kind of revolutionary political.
We're going to be trolling him a long time.
In the Panther 21 trial, I specifically wanted to include a clip here where you hear Jamal Joseph, who is a part of the Panther 21, talk about the very real legal considerations that went into their trial and their legal defense, and how Afeni Shakur, Tupac's mother, was a big part of helping them all get acquitted.
Students who were anti-war organizers, Columbia students, who he had represented for free, saying, I need help organizing. And they built a Panther 21 defense committee that was amazing. Students were involved. And the other thing that they did was that it was a broad-based coalition. So you had originally predominantly white students, but then city college students, and then community folk, and then other folk. And they were pointing out that that here are men and women from the community who certainly can't afford $100,000 bail. Because who were the Panthers? Who were the Panther 21? Students, workers, welfare mothers, former street people, a couple of people who had been, formerly incarcerated folks, veterans. We had one person, Sundiata Okoli, who was a mathematician and had worked at Nassau for a little while.
Wow.
Curtis Powell, who was a biologist, but no one had $100,000, and which is about $900,000 in today's money. I first started to understand the sophistication of what was going on when I had been in prison for about 3 months, and they brought us all together in court, because initially they separated all of us so we couldn't communicate. So it wasn't like the 21 was all in one jail. Afeni Shakur and Joan Bird were in the women's house of detention. Myself and a Panther named Katara, Alex McKeever, we were on Rikers Island. But even on Rikers Island, we were separated. So when we'd have a court hearing, they'd have to bring us in from all different points. And then we'd have that court hearing, and then afterwards we'd all be in a large cell conferring with our lawyers. So I just knew that we were having a bail hearing. And beside our lawyers, there were lawyers from the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. I was like, what is the NAACP doing here? And the NAACP Legal Defense Fund was there because they believed that we were being prosecuted and persecuted because of our political beliefs. And even though the NAACP obviously had different beliefs, the mission of the Defense Fund was to look at arrests that were racially motivated because of race or because of someone's beliefs. This blew my mind, but it made me understand the sophistication of real organization, bring people around the issues. We in turn made bail an issue for everybody that was being held. So there was a rebellion. Afeni was bailed out, I was bailed out, and the Panther leader, Dhoruba Ben-Wahad, had been bailed out. The remaining Panthers, we had by this time won a motion to all be housed in one prison, which was the Queens House of Detention, or called Branch Queens, in Long Island City. And the Panthers led a rebellion taking over that prison. It wasn't the typical, we want better food, or we want more time, more recreation time. Number one demand was bail hearings, and judges were dispatched to that prison to have hearings in the prison visiting room, and about 30 men were released that day. And it happened similarly. Wow. So this is how you could take an issue and organize around it. We made this an issue in the courtroom. We made the issue of jury selection, which was one of the points in the 10-point program. We wanted a trial by a jury of our peer group. And when we would say we in the 10-point program, it wasn't that we the Panthers, it was like we were recognizing that historically people were arrested and tried and convicted by
Guys,
all white.
as an aside, oh, you just found me last night? Welcome. Hey, if you're new to my stuff, the very best place to start is to head over. I don't know if you found this. Go to my Substack. That's Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Click on New to My Work, Start Here. Scroll down and watch this video, Re-Education and Anti-Communist Introduction to the Far Left. That is the very best place to start because that's like your entry-level crash course into watching leftist training and breaking down their language. I also have a 4-hour version that like just expands it much, much more. So welcome to the channel. Make sure you go over there and watch that. And all of this stuff is going to make a lot more sense if you do. Guys, what was I just going to say? I had an important news update and then I forgot. It'll come back. Don't worry.
Juries.
And a local instance that I have referenced a few times on this channel that I've talked about on the Dugout, and I recently did an interview with It's Going Down about repression, and I mentioned the Boeing 5 case a lot. In 2024, around March or April, some folks decided to do
I remember what I was going to say. I don't know why this is happening, but like you guys know, I'm in all of these far left echo chambers on like Instagram and stuff like that because I just go through so much of their content. It's how I get a lot of my intelligence because the left actually surprisingly does a lot of organizing on Instagram. Over the past couple days, I've just started getting served leftist zines that are things I have from being with them in real life. They're putting the same zines that we've studied on Instagram. Like just like the whole zine. So I don't know. It's one of those things where I hadn't actually seen a lot of like the zines making it onto Instagram before the last couple of days. And now all of a sudden I'm just seeing like look what I just found. Look what I just found. We've read this zine. It's called These Faggots Fight Fascists, Defend Pride. We've read that. That's like Queer Marxist 101 right there. And I saw it on Instagram. So that's a thing that's happening. I don't know if that's new or if I just found a new kind of like rabbit hole to go down, but that was cool. Yo, Dawn, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. Happy Monday. Fun donation. Hey, really appreciate it, Dawn. Thank you so much for dropping by.
work stoppage at a Boeing facility. For those who don't know, Boeing has had ties to the state of Israel literally since Israel started.
Oh, yeah?
And out of that action, there was a work stoppage that lasted a number of hours, stopped people from going to work, and 5 people were arrested. And they faced numerous felony charges that far exceeded the action of that day, which was very much seen as a scare tactic. Defendants were asked to take down personal social media posts. And at one point, the prosecution was pursuing having these 5 activists pay over $250,000 in restitution. I became a part of the legal defense team where we would have regular meetings. We would talk about our goals, whether it be for helping folks be financially secure while they were facing this trial, whether it be addressing the emotional concerns that people had, trying to get media to pay attention to it. I did a number of Skillshare trainings related to helping people prepare for interviews. And so even in legal support, there are all of the things
Yeah,
that
it's his
go
girlfriend. We
into
figured that out.
highlighting a case that is unjust and figuring out the different ways that people in your community can use their skills to help people facing these kinds of repression. Legal support should not only be about helping people face trial, but also when those folks were inevitably sentenced to time in jail, we organized people to be with them when they entered custody. We organized meals for people that were able to get work release from jail. We organize people to regularly write them, call folks, be an emotional support system so folks inside could know that people care for them. And so when I think about legal support work and abolition in general, it's not just about trying to stop people from going to jail or stopping the state from being able to arrest people, but it's about how do we continue our relationships and continue our collectivism and community with people that are inside. And also eventually, how do you free people from that shit? Because the state can't just lock everybody up, or they could, but it wouldn't be good. So I was editing this video and I have to put in this clip. I don't know if everyone remembers Kanye West 2005.
Yeah,
all
the
celebrity
best
fundraisers that
moment
happened
ever.
after Katrina.
This was
This
hilarious.
clip always blows me
Actually,
away because I think, what the fuck happened to you, Kanye? Like, you went from this into a literal Nazi?
yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
And the way that Kanye West
He
says what he
did.
does about
He
George Bush at the
did.
end, you know it's an antagonism towards whiteness, white complacency, white complicity. So yeah, watch this clip.
I hate the way they portray us in the media. If you see a black family, it says they're looting. See a white family, it says they're looking for food. And you know, it's been 5 days because most of the people are black. And even for me to complain about, I would be a hypocrite because I've tried to turn away from the TV because it's too hard to watch. I've even been shopping before even giving a donation. So now I'm calling my business manager right now to see what is the biggest amount I can give. And just to imagine if I was down there, and those are my people down there. So anybody out there that wants to do anything that we can help with the setup, the way America is set up to help the poor, the black people, the less well off as slow as possible. I mean, this is Red Cross is doing everything they can. We already realize a lot of the people that could help are at war right now, fighting another way, and they've given them permission to go down and shoot us.
And subtle, but in even many ways more profoundly devastating, is the lasting damage to the survivors' will to rebuild and remain in the area. The destruction of the spirit of the people of southern Louisiana and Mississippi may end up being the most tragic loss of all.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
That will never not be funny.
In the past few days,
The next form of mutual aid that I want to dig into is disaster relief. And disaster relief mutual aid usually responds to crises by providing immediate support and rebuilding efforts, often filling gaps led by government or institutional failures. When I think about disaster relief, I immediately think back to Katrina, how that was one of my major first media flashpoints to understand the degradation of Blackness on a public level. Nearly 1 in 3 Black residents have not returned to the city after the storm. It was the worst urban disaster in modern history of that time, says Talk Poverty. There are many different reasons why Katrina was such a fucked up disaster, but a lot of it has to do with the way that lower income communities, many Black residents living in New Orleans, were in the low flying areas like the low 9th Ward, which were more prone to flooding and had less robust infrastructure. Federal, state, and local agencies failed to respond
Guys, I gotta
promptly
pee.
and
I'll be right back.
adequately, leaving many, many, many people to die or to be sick or to be gravely injured. If you start off entering a natural disaster with less money because of the economic conditions that lock Black people out of paying jobs or better quality of life, what do you think happens when a natural disaster occurs? And there is a piece that explores this history with Katrina and mutual aid efforts that came out of the eventual crisis, that the mutual aid efforts that came out of the aftermath. And one of those articles is called Riding the Waves of Mutual Aid. And this is an article about the organization Common Ground that came out of the aftermath of Katrina. Common Ground began in 2005 as an anarchist collective in the backyard of Malik Rahim, a longtime community organizer and former Black Panther. While the Hurricane Katrina still raged, he asked organizers Brandon Darby and Scott Crow to help him protect himself from white vigilante groups who were roaming the streets. Soon, members of these robust networks were asking how they could help, and the trio was inundated with donations, supplies, and volunteers. From the onset, Common Ground's motto was solidarity, not charity. It's a common refrain for mutual aid projects, shorthand for the organizing opportunities crisis can present. On the surface, a group's disaster response might look similar to that of established organizations. After Katrina, for example, the Red Cross served hot meals, while Common Ground delivered groceries to those.
Oh, who's this? Who's this? Is this Lauren D. LaPsycho? Guys, this is Lauren D. Laguna. Lauren De Laguna is a psychotic cunt who is obsessed with me, and she comes into the chat and she has a new account every single time. And she sends money, and then we berate her and we permanently block her from the channel. And then she goes and creates another account because she is psychotic. And we just keep blocking them.
Who needed to replenish their supply. Mutual aid groups might even outdo the relief offered by nonprofits and government agencies.
Yeah, we got to
Before
reach our
people
pain to
began
be
filling
berated.
FEMA
It's like
requests,
a humiliation
Common Ground is
fetish.
teaching residents how to tarp their roofs and assess wind and flood damage. But those organizations can also provide space for deeper conversations around why certain communities are more affected by the disaster than others. In New Orleans, many healthcare facilities closed during the storm, including Charity Hospital, one of the nation's oldest free hospitals. The hurricane exacerbated the need for healthcare among low-income people, a famously transient population made all the more vulnerable because of displacement.
Oh, you justice.
Exacerbates already.
It's, you know what? Listen, it's a really special treat for everyone who is about to discover who HT is for the first time via Alex Jones. And if I'm honest about it, I can't wait to watch that shit later. I cannot wait to watch HT on Alex Jones. I think that's going to be so hilarious.
Standing conditions of exploitation, whether that be economic, whether that be healthcare, whether that be the structural integrity of the home that you've had or have been sold, and how disaster relief, in a sense, is not only trying to address the immediate harms of what climate collapse can kind of lead to, but it also exposes the harms of the systems that are meant to help us, that are meant to do work and show up and provide housing and checks and resources. Like, how fucking hard did FEMA fail? How fucking hard did FEMA fail? Really? And so when thinking about disaster relief mutual aid, it's really about fixating on how can we remedy the damage of both climate change and natural disasters, but also the gaps in how the state and its institutions should be helping us all on an equal level, but is not. The next form of mutual aid that I want to talk about is abolition. This is obviously very, very important.
This is prison abolition, I think.
Or anarchist values that I kind of hold dear and true is not only being non-hierarchical, but also being against prison and police systems.
Yep, abolition
And
means police
mutual aid works to
abolition.
dismantle oppressive systems like prison industrial complex while supporting those harmed by incarceration and systemic violence. And I kind of put this in a different category than legal support, because I think legal support is more about the kind of first half / supporting people while they're incarcerated. The abolition is about preventing a lot of the systems and processes that even lead police to even be in our communities. And I want to list off a few of the different things that are kind of considered abolitionary mutual aid. We can consider prisoner support networks, organizing letter writing campaigns between prisoners or between people that are incarcerated and non-incarcerated. We can look at commissary and phone funds, raising funds that are collectively shared and allocated to help people get money on their books for commissary so they can buy basics or things that they might need or want while they're locked up, providing them funds to allow them to communicate freely with people on the outside, because one of the ways that prisons and jails exploit people is by charging them to literally communicate with people in their lives. Re-entry support, providing housing, clothing, food, the basic necessities of life as someone is exiting the carceral system and might need to readjust back to the world outside as we know it. And I think abolitionary mutual aid works largely to address the ways that the carceral system can really dehumanize people, can really take away the basics of life, can really stop people from having even the slimmest of luxuries and enjoyments, whether that be communication or clothing or resources. Jail system as we know it. I mean, one statistic that really boggles my mind when I was researching for this video, incarcerated workers in the US produce at least $11 billion in goods. $11 billion in goods and services annually, but receive just pennies an hour in wages for their prison jobs, according to a new report from American Civil Liberties Union. Interested in abolitionary mutual aid, thinking about instances like Attica.
And accept somebody to take it.
Because we had a beautiful society in the yard. You know, because basically we realized, you know, that all we had was each other. you know? So we clung to each other, spite of all our different ideologies, and there were 1,000 ideologies out there, you know? But they worked it out for the common good. And it was just for us, all of us together. You understand, all of us eating together, you know, like having to suffer together. You know, it was 4 days without bathing. You had to smell each other. 4 days of going hungry, sharing what you had amongst each other. It was really groovy, man, you know? Groovy in the sense that you know what it is to have unity. You dig? It was really a united thing. You dig? It was a thing where, you know, well, we're going to do this, you know. It was nice. We might have a disagreement on it. But as to the thing as a whole, we're all together though.
There was no really racial tension, and everybody was looking out for each other, sharing food and sharing cigarettes and putting up things to sleep in and mattresses, you know, the whole organization. And it was just fantastic the way everybody worked together, you know. It was really beautiful.
All right, hey, let's move. Don't hold up the line. Keep this line going there. Let's move it. Come on, let's move. Right on. Hey. Come on, 38. Tell them we ain't dead. Tell them we ain't dead. Can I hold this in? Tell them we ain't dead. Ain't nothing dead about us. We ain't gonna die. Nothing. We will not die in here.
And I want you brothers to get together because we together here. And these people think we shucking and jiving, but we is for real.
Well, I thought things were bad down home, but I've never seen anything like this. The people in here are treated like...
On mute accidentally. We got a super chat from Charles. Keep winning. Let's keep winning. Yeah, let's do it, Charles. Thank you so much, bro. You rock.
Not only the black, the Puerto Rican, and the white. And we're going to get what we demand, or we're going to die trying.
That's right.
Almost done.
Support us.
We
all
made
the
it,
way.
guys.
We're doing this for everybody.
We no longer wish to be treated as statistics. We want to be treated as human beings.
We are men. We are not beasts, and we do not intend to be driven or beaten as such. The entire prison populace has set forth to change forever the ruthless brutalization and disregard for the lives of the prisoners here and throughout the United States. What has happened here is but the sound before the fury of those who are oppressed.
And they did that shit real fucking hard. I would argue that the mutual aid networks and the abolitionary systems and modes of organizing that are in place, such as initiatives like In the Belly or In the Mix, those kind of mutual aid networks where there is that peer support amongst people that have been incarcerated or recently released. And the book that I'd recommend if you want to kind of learn more about these modes of organizing would be a text that I actually started digging into a few days ago called Tip of the Spear by Orasanmi Burton. So how to get started. I wanted to keep these steps very simple. There are plenty of sub-steps that are under these major steps when we think about how to get started. But to jump right into it, the first thing you need to do if you want to get involved in mutual aid is to identify community needs. Do you live in a neighborhood where there are food deserts?
You think Cam's Discord has had more post participation in the last hour than in the last 2 days? I thought he was super relevant and everyone just loved him and everyone was like super active around him. You know, who knew?
Do you live in a particular community where there isn't access to affordable health care? Do you live somewhere where the schooling system is particularly racist or fucked up or transphobic and you want to create an alternative educational structure for kids to be a part of, to tap into? And so when identifying community needs, you can do things like in community surveys, attending local meetings, doing door knocking, showing up to public events and talking to people and getting people to gather and hold space together and talk about what the problems or the needs are in their community. One way that we can look at this is focusing on gaps in support systems and local organizations or institutions that maybe offer some kind of help or aid, but drop the ball in other ways or don't consider helping certain kinds of victims of certain kind of wrongs. Form a team or an affinity group of people. This can be as simple as bringing 3 friends together where on a weekly basis You maybe go around your neighborhood and you pick up trash. Build a collective framework, form a team or an affinity group with shared goals.
Cam's Discord is dead. Cam Higby's Discord is dead. I thought that Cam was the most relevant person on the internet with the most active and engaged community ever. And I was just but a poor, irrelevant streamer.
Talk about roles and talk about your commitment to solidarity, not charity, and what that would look like. Does it mean not turning away certain kinds of people that have certain kind of ideological beliefs?
Can someone get a screenshot of this, please? Can you get the screenshot of Cam Higby's Discord server literally having pronoun roles? Someone needs to do that right now. Just go. If you find any woke shit going on in that Discord, thank you, Sam. I appreciate it.
To you? Would it mean running a community serve where you treat people, where you serve food to people that are houseless, or someone who's wearing a MAGA hat?
That must
or
be his
someone
girlfriend. That's the
who
girlfriend
maybe
right
even
there.
caused
That's the
problems last
girlfriend.
week
I
at
promise
that same
you.
community serve? Bringing together just a core group of people that are willing to do the work. It can be as simple as having one person yourself, or a number of people, or expanding. And I think also with establishing this group, it's important to establish a communication framework or a mode of communicating with each other. Are you going to use text messaging and the kind of traditional systems of communicating, or are you doing things where you maybe have to be a bit more subversive about how you're gaining your resources?
My
you want to communicate
God.
through secure or encrypted methods. You start gaining and distributing resources. This is one of the things that kind of distinguishes mutual aid from other forms of charity or direct aid, because I think if you just apply for a bunch of grant money and then you're able to allocate that grant money and an institution is knowing where, how you're spending it, it isn't necessarily mutual aid in my mind. You have to think about how you're getting resources. Are you going to be crowd sharing? Are you dumpster diving? Are you resorting to forms of expropriation? And then once you have those resources, how are you going to distribute them? What neighborhoods, through what means? Is it going to be an open call? Is it going to be a public space or event that people can gather at? And then next and lastly is also connecting with existing efforts. Just because you have an idea for mutual aid doesn't mean that there isn't an adjacent community organization that might want to help out as well. If you made it to the end of this video, you and I have both made it through a lot today. Like, I've been sitting in this chair for 5 hours waiting for my camera to overheat, dumping footage, waiting for my camera to overheat, dumping footage. So we've both made it together. And I know we've talked about a few of the ways to get started, but these are just general steps. I think a lot of organizing in general would follow these steps: assessing community needs, figuring out what your resources are, finding a trusted team of people.
I always want to show you what I just tweeted. We are right at the end of the video, so we can have some fun now. I just want to show you. I have just been provided with evidence that Cam Higby's Discord server has pronoun roles, and I know this is hard to see, but you can find it on my Twitter. I literally just tweeted this out. Let me put the link in the chat, I guess. You're going to have to go look at the image, okay? You're going to have to go look at the image. Let me put it in the chat on Rumble. You guys made it through the presentation. Well done. We'll do a debrief in a moment. There it is. Make sure this is as big as I can make it. Shit. There we go. Right here. The very first, it's not even, guys, the pronoun roles in Cam Higby's Discord are not even hidden. They are the very first item. The very first item is the pronoun roles. That's the girlfriend. I promise you the girlfriend did that. Yes. You're conservative journalist, sire. Pronoun roles. I wonder if Cam Higby is really a they, them. It would explain so much. It would explain so much. I'm pretty sure they're going, I'm pretty sure they're going to figure it out. I'm pretty sure, given that there's been more activity in Cam's Discord server today, given that I literally retweeted Great Otis's link to the Discord and I said, get them, boys, I'm pretty sure that they're going to figure out that we're in there. I'm pretty sure. I don't know how we possibly could have been more inconspicuous in this little fucking mission, but I didn't know you guys were doing this until it was already too late. You know what? New Discord accounts can be made. Why the fuck don't you guys have more than one Discord account already? I have a secret socialist Discord account, and I'm in the socialist groups on the other Discord account. Everyone should have at least 2 Discord accounts. Anyway. Guys, you made it to the end of the mutual aid presentation. Now, let me ask you guys this, in all seriousness. 1 in the chat, if you learned something about how Antifa and the far left is funded. 2 in the chat, if you didn't learn anything today and it was a big waste of time. 1 in the chat, if you learned something new today about how Antifa is actually funded and how they're actually doing what they're doing. 2 in the chat if this was all a big waste of time. Did you notice that most of this presentation about mutual aid did not focus on monetary things? It focused on services to the community. So, of course, mutual aid can be monetary. It can be in small cash donations, or, it could be in donations of goods and services. It could be donations in your time. It could be donations in any number of other things, right? But you have to understand, they are trying to put the structures in place to uphold and create a communist society. The things that they developed in their mutual aid network are going to persist once they take over. They're not going to go away. And so when you're looking at mutual aid and you're looking at how the left funds things, you can very literally look at how they're organizing now and know that is what they have envisioned for the communist utopia. That's why it's so important that we study them. That's why it's so important that we understand what they mean when they say certain words, when they're doing certain strategies. We understand how it's actually organizing, and we understand how it's not. Because again, part of the reason this is a problem is not that this information isn't readily available. I've seen more people than ever lately coming out and saying, guys, it's mutual aid. Can we hinge into reality? Every time the conservative retards start off on this narrative about it's Soros and it's Never Were Single and it's the CCP and it's the NGOs. Like every time they start in on one of these things, I'm seeing more and more people speak up and say, you idiots, they're doing it with mutual aid. If the right does not understand how the left is funded, then the right will never be in any position to defeat the left at all, because they are fundamentally unhinged from reality. And this is not difficult information to look for, as you saw today. Mutual aid is how they're funded. We keep us safe. Comrades in the community taking care of each other, and that is why you will never cut their funding. You cannot cut a people in a community donating money and goods. And the networks that they have built, these mutual aid networks that they've been working on building, in some cases for decades, this is their strongest weapon, and the right doesn't even know it's happening. Does everyone understand that? This is the strongest weapon the left has. The mutual aid networks. It's the most powerful. It's the most indestructible, because it's like a multi-headed hydra. You cut off one head, guess what? 3 are going to go back in its place. It is impossible to take out mutual aid. You will never be able to do it. It will never fucking happen. So what you need to do instead is focus on the people who are doing the organizing. If the Trump administration wasn't run by a massive set of retards, they would be focusing on arresting the lead organizers for facilitating an insurrection against the government. That's what I would do. But I'm just an irrelevant person talking on the internet about socialism and communism. Anyway, guys, that is going to wrap it up for today. Hey, in 45 minutes, if you are a channel member, you will get access to join us for movie night in the supporter Discord. How you find the Discord link is by going to my YouTube channel, clicking on the post tab, And when you are a channel member, the very first post in the post tab will be the link to the Discord. I posted it last night. You can sign up, get verified, come join us for movie night. I know the casino's on tonight. I thought about watching it, but I really have other shit I need to do. I'm not sure if BG got bailed out of jail. So guys, if you are a new channel member, welcome. We got, 101 new channel members today, which is rad. Thank you so much for helping me meet the channel membership goal. Again, I am 100% independently funded by people like you. The only reason that we are able to have the conversations and the classes that we have on this channel is because I am independently funded. I do not answer to any political group. I do not answer to any political master. My job is to tell you the truth and to show you the primary source evidence directly and to help you understand what you're looking at. And that is it. That's it. And you can decide to do with that information what you will. But you will always get the truth here because we only use primary source evidence and we don't make shit up and we don't say stuff is happening when we don't have evidence to back it up. We got Red Menace Nick at Delaney Hall again, our intrepid undercover warrior. As of 2 hours ago, no one arrested it. I love Nick. I love that you fucking changed your profile photo, by the way. That's fucking hilarious. No one arrested at Delaney Hall has been released, nor process to release started. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought, is they aren't even processed yet. So they're suffering, and it sucks that they arrested the journalists, but W Nick and all the undercover people for getting out of there before you guys got arrested. I was pretty pleased to hear that. I was worried about Nick yesterday. I was like, please don't get arrested while undercover. Please don't get arrested. I will have to drive down to New Jersey to bail your ass out, and I would do it. Nick, I want you to know if you ever got arrested while you were undercover at something, I would drive down there to bail you out if you needed. So I was seriously like, please don't get arrested. I don't want to go to New Jersey. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready. Anyway, guys, thank you again so much for the 101 gifted channel memberships. Thank you to everyone who sent in super chats. I really, really appreciate it. I'm going to take my leave and join Mac B for movie night at 9 p.m. in the Discord. He's watching Misery at 9 p.m. I will send out a notification, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care, guys. We'll see you.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
the Antifa people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.